Okay, hi everybody. I'm Christine and from Jakarta, Indonesia. And when Shruti told me about this Beyond Belly Dance, I thought this was such a fabulous idea. I wish I came up with this idea for my students because we don't have enough time in the studio to teach everything that we want to teach. We're too busy, trying to teach them about music and technique and choreography and then different things about folklore and culture and stuff like that we need this kind of thing. So I really am amazed and wow, this is such a great idea. I really love it. Thank you. And thank you very much for inviting me. I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed because um people like Nisa and Shining who are like real hardcore and I'm this like oh do. So anyway, so today we're going to talk about dancing with your authentic self. And this is a topic that me and Shruti we were discussing about what to talk about because there are a few things that we wanted to discuss. But I feel like this one is really important because, especially in Asia, East Asia and Southeast Asia, I feel like a lot of people are nowadays are dancing so similar that I can't even tell them apart. So a few years ago, I was, invited a few times to be a judge at competitions. And some of these competitions are a few days long. Okay. It's not just one day. It's like 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. one day, day two, day three. And after about 3 hours, everybody just started looking the same. They started dancing the same and their costumes were the same. It was just I couldn't even remember who they were anymore. And this started me thinking more deeply into the reason why these dancers don't explore this aspect about their dance life. Um, they're so focused maybe on technique, on getting their movement vocabulary and getting their choreography absolutely perfect. And I'm not talking about bad dancers. These are amazing, really amazing, great technical dancers. But when you see them dancing, you don't remember them because it's just another body moving. Okay, another pretty girl moving, and the next one, another pretty girl moving, and it keeps going like this. And after a while, it's like, okay, everybody looks the same. I think that for me, the biggest compliment that anybody has ever given to me was after they judged a competition. Hang on, I think somebody's not muted. Um, okay, so my students were dancing in a competition, and then one of the judges came up to me and they said, "Oh, your students, they don't dance like you." And I was like, yes, this is amazing. Exactly. I don't want them to dance like me. I want them to dance like them. So, for example, one of my students is here. Her name is Inda. So, Inda dances like Inda. She doesn't dance like me. It's my choreography, maybe, but I want her to dance like her because then you put your essence into the dance. So anyway, this is a really important topic that I feel and it's very dear to my heart. So let's start the presentation. I'm just going to let's see. Please bear with me. I'm really bad at this. Play from the start. Okay, wait, hang on. I need to share screen. Okay, share screen. Microsoft PowerPoint presentation. Is that right? And I should start slide. But where do I start slide? Slideshow. Aha. Okay. So here you go. Dancing with your authentic self. All right. So today with this, I was when I was doing this presentation, I was thinking, what do you need to know about dancing with your authentic self? So I figured we're going to explore the what is it, why is it important, who are the dancers who I think who dance with their authentic self, and how do you achieve this? So let's start with the what. Okay, so there you go. Very beautiful. What, why, who, and how. The what? So we're going to define. Please bear with me. I know a lot of you speak English, so but I just wanted to define it just so that we remember. Okay, so the self is defined as a person's essential being. I can't read it, but hang on. Okay, a person's essential being that distinguishes them from others. So this means that you are your own person. I am my own person. We are different people, basically. That's what it means. And then, okay, authentic means original, genuine, real, original. Oh, I put it twice because it's really important. Not false or copied. So this is true to yourself, true to your essence. And authentic self is who you truly are as a person, regardless of occupation, influence of others. It is an honest representation of yourself. So when we talk about there's a quote that I wanted to read to you guys, and I didn't write it down because I forgot. Anyway, it's by Carl Jung, and it says that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. So I think that this quote sums up the importance of growing into your authentic self. To be authentic is to be true to yourself, true to your thoughts, words, and actions. Um, okay, so there are if okay, we are not schizophrenic, but most people have multiple selves. So I feel like the self that you are when you're with your family and friends is different from the self that you are when you're at work. And this is also different from the self that you are when you dance. More or less, it might have some sort of overlap, but there's a little bit of difference between all of these things. So I feel like it's important to find out who you are and what you represent when you dance, because we are all dancers and we're not, otherwise you wouldn't be here. Huh? But but so I feel like when you're dancing, you need to know who you are and what you're talking and what you are presenting out to the audience or to the public. um, Authenticity is about confidently knowing who you are, being self-aware, and being honest and being humble. Okay, all right, so we've already established what is it. Let's move on to the why. So why is this important? I was speaking about this a little bit about in the competitions and how everybody starts to look the same. Okay, so let's go. What is dance? Dance is art, and art is a form of self-expression. So especially I feel like with Oriental dance, because you are free to choose your own music, you're free to make your own choreography, you're free um, to create your own mood, your own movements, your costuming, your props. If you want to use a veil with this mise en scène, or if you don't want to use a veil, or with this song you want to use, I don't know, Isis wings or fan veil or whatever it is, or even add zills. You are free to choose what you want to dance to, how you want to dance to this particular song. And I feel that this gives us a lot of freedom. It's different from, for example, ballet, or if you're doing salsa. In salsa, you're dancing with a partner, and if we're the woman, usually the man is the leader, so he's the one who's leading you to do whatever he feels like doing. And for ballet, you have your program, it's a set choreography, and you just have to stick with it. Whereas I feel like in Oriental dance, this is really the dance to show who you really are. Um, okay, and I also wrote here, I made a little presentation just because I forget things. So in a world of superficiality and TikTok stars, I feel like it's important to preserve your true self as an artist, because at the end of the day, dance is art. Okay, so now I would like to invite you to tell me, why do you dance? And feel free to unmute yourselves if you want to join in the conversation. Otherwise, I can also answer for everybody. So why do you dance? Anybody want to join in the conversation? Okay, I figured that people might not want to join in the conversation. So there you go. So why do you dance? To be free.
I just unmuted myself.
Yes.
I thought probably it's going to be very noisy if all of us are going to unmute. So I just typed it in the chat.
Oh, okay.
Nevertheless, yeah, I think people are actually replying in the chat.
Oh, okay.
So I dance because it just makes me happy. It's
Yes.
just me at that moment, and I've just let go on all the worries or everything behind me, and it's just me. That time is just with me. So
That's really amazing. I have a student who has 4 children, She's right there. And then and especially with this quarantine lockdown, she's like, I'm going mad. I'm like, yeah. So then she will, she will escape. Dancing is her escape. She goes to a room, she puts on some music, and she's bopping around. And and I understand that because she loves dancing, obviously, but it's also to escape her normal job as a mom, her normal job as a caretaker of these kids, right? So yeah, I see you, Hadija. So
It's just like,
Christine, there are a couple of other comments. They're saying, for the love of music, music is primarily for me. It makes me happy. I feel free. It makes me confident. And dance is cheaper than therapy. Lol.
Okay, I totally agree. Okay, so I wrote a few things. Love of the music, yeah. Love to dance. There are some people who love dancing so much that they will dance anything. I like what I mean is they will dance all styles and any kind of music, even like whatever TikTok music they'll dance to. Okay, and of course to express yourself. Just as a side note, I don't actually love any other dance except for belly dance. And people are always like, "You do you want to go and watch this ballet?" And no, not really. Do you want to go? So, no, not really. I only like Oriental dance and Oriental folklore. So anyway, but that's just me. A lot of people I know, they love dancing so much they will do any kind of dance. They just feel so free to move their body. Okay, so why do we dance? This is kind of thing. So when we look at the answers, all the answers have something to do with self-expression or self-fulfillment. And this is why the word self is really important, because this is who you are when you're dancing. It's not just copying somebody or imitating somebody and showing and presenting that. And that is why I think it's really important to be your authentic self in Oriental dance, especially. In other forms of dance, maybe it's not so important, but especially in Oriental dance, I think, yes, it's really important. Okay, next slide. Thank you for answering, everyone. Okay, so I have some quotes for you. Oh, I should say contemporary dance and modern dance is also self-expression. Sorry, I forgot about those. Okay. All right, so I have a quote. Dance is the hidden language of the soul, and it's quoted as Martha Graham, who said it. She was considered to be the mother of modern dance and the 20th century's most important dancer. She shaped American modern dance, and her techniques are still taught today. So that's one quote. And another one by Ruth Saint-Denis. Dance is used as communication between body and soul to express what is too deep to find for words. I actually feel that this quote is really it means a lot to me, because if I'm feeling sad or really emotional, the first thing that I want to do is just dance. I will find the saddest song you can find on my iTunes or on Spotify, and that's what I'm going to express, because sometimes I don't want to talk, and sometimes I don't want to worry my family. So then I just dance, and it helps me. It is definitely cheaper than therapy. All right, and the last one is, in Egypt, the dance is not a machine. There isn't one, two, three, four. If you lose the feeling and soul, then you're not dancing. You're just replicating something. And that's said by Rhonda Kamel. She's an Egyptian Oriental dancer, internationally renowned, and probably one of the top dancers at the moment in Cairo. Although she doesn't really dance a lot in Cairo, she dances a lot for festivals and for international events. So when you look at these three quotes, I was thinking, okay, what is the common factor here? All of them are talking about soul. There's hidden language of the soul, communication between body and the soul, and then if you lose the feeling and soul, it's soul, 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 soul. So if you look at this and you think, oh, dance is a soul dance. We're not dancing soul, but it's a dance. The dance expresses your soul. So here we go. Okay, the soul. Emotional or intellectual energy or intensity, especially as, woohoo, can't read, is revealed in a work of art or an artistic performance. This one, when I read the definition, I was like, oh wow, this is really amazing, because you can't quantify it so much. Like when you see a dancer and you're like, oh, this she has so much feeling, she has so much soul, and you're like, okay, but it's all qualitative. It's, you can't quantify it, yeah. But when you read it out there, that it's an energy and an intensity, and by revealed by this person's performance, or revealed by her movements, then you're like, okay, then that is what it means by when someone says that this dancer has soul, or this dancer has a lot of feeling. um, I wanted to tell you, okay, so dance is an artistic performance to express a message, whether you are dancing as a ballady girl or ballady boy, or an elegant golden era actress on the silver screen. So, or it's just simply who you are as a person, because of course we have different characters. Some of us are soft, some of us are intense, some of us are energetic. I am none of these things. I'm not energetic, and I am not intense. Well, a little bit intense, but my personality is quite soft. I'm quite, hello, positive kind of person. So I think that this shows in the way I dance. So everybody has differences in who they are. By expressing your authentic self, you connect more sincerely with the audience, and they will remember you and your performance because you touch them on a deeper level, rather than just showing them a beautiful body, a beautiful costume with amazing technique. So I'm reminded about a story. So in, let me see, 2005, I think in 2005, one of my teachers, her name is Tamale Dalal. She's my main teacher, like my first teacher. So she told me a story of how she went to Ahlan Wasalan, which is a festival in Cairo, the biggest festival in it. Well, it was the biggest festival in Cairo, and they have this competition. So she brought some students with her. Most of them were, advanced level dancers, and she also had her professional students. So by that I mean like students who are teaching already in her studio and who are professional dancers. So they all went there and they all decided to compete. And of course, the girls who are at pro level, they've already thought about their costume, they've already made a choreography and everything. Okay, but she also brought in like her intermediate student. I think the student had been dancing for like what, 5 years plus minus, something like this. And that student decided on the whim to join this competition, right? And she didn't prepare anything. She just thought, okay, I might as well. I'm here. I'm just going to join. Let's join. It's fine. And this student ended up winning the competition. And you know who that student was? Okay. Da 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 da. So that student was Boženka. So if you don't know Boženka, she's one of the belly dance superstars of the group, along with Tamale Dalal, who was original belly dance superstar with Jilina and some others. So I think it was 2005. I can't really remember what year, but what I wanted to tell you guys is that with all of these other quote unquote better dancers than her, who are more experienced, they prepared a lot, they've thought everything about it, they've come up with a great choreography, they are all of course amazing dancers, but then this girl, this amazing, well, I find she's really amazing, but she goes and wins. You know why? Because of her feeling. She's not doing anything, and then I watched the video, right? She's doing very simple movements but beautifully executed, and you can feel her joy and her soul just shining through from her performance. And yeah, it's making me so emotional now when I'm thinking about it. But compared to like you know other dancers who might be more technical, but maybe they're more tense, and maybe instead of focusing too much on feelings or on the soul, they're focused a lot on, am I getting this hip drop right? Is my shimmy fast enough? Am I doing these, super duper hair flicks and tricks? And on the other hand, this girl is, I shouldn't call her this girl, but she's just doing something really simple and just presenting herself as herself. And it's really amazing. If you can find it, you should find it on YouTube, or I'll try to find it and I'll send it to you guys. But yeah, it's really cool. Okay, so okay. Mhm. Why is all this important? Okay. Dance is an artistic performance to express a message. Yes. Sincerity, authenticity is important to connect with your audience. I feel that this is really something that maybe a lot of us don't think about too often. Like in Indonesia, we don't really perform a lot in restaurants. And I think Shruti also said that in India, you guys don't perform a lot in the restaurants either. But the time that I did perform in a restaurant and it was part of a hafla or something, I forgot what I was doing. I think I was dancing Wahashtini, something, some classic song like that. So being a plus size dancer, so as soon as I went on stage, people are like laughing. And this is another topic that we'll talk about in next time. But anyway, so then I started dancing. And then maybe like within 30 seconds of the song, I could see these Arabic groups start to pay attention. And some of them even like pulled their chair, and this is quite far away, pulled their chair, dragged it all the way across the restaurant, and sat in front of the stage. And I was like, what the hell is going on? But my so neat. But my point is just to show that when you touch the audience, all of these connections is really important. And I could have been dancing whatever, you know, something really simple or something really not that beautiful, but because I was really sincerely, authentically trying to show them this is who I am. Watch me dance, Washtini, which means I miss you. Okay. All right. So the who. So let's explore which dancers that have touched you and or are memorable for something in their performance or a signature style. So I've just shown you, I'm going to show you just a few of my favorites. I have a lot, and these are just the ones that I thought that most people would know who they are. So let's start with the Egyptians. Fifi Abdo, of course. I love this woman. She's amazing from the time that she started dancing as a young dancer until now when she's a grandma. I think she's in her 70s. Her dance style has not changed. It's really, this is who she is. And I chose something, let me see. Okay, so I really like her. I think that she's one of the most soulful, authentic dancers that I've seen. And well, okay, because she's still dancing now, even on her, even if it's just on her Instagram. So that's why I wanted you to see her. That so you can see her when she was still young and still like in the black and white movies, and then even until now on her Instagram. And when she dances, it's like, I don't know, she's beaming, radiating, something is coming out from her, and it's really amazing. The other one that I wanted to show is another Egyptian dancer, is Dina. Okay, I really love Dina because she has her own uniqueness, and it's really amazing. Nobody can copy her. There is only one Dina. Talking about copying all these master teachers in East Asia, like in China and other countries in Asia. I know India's South Asia, but it's really popular to kind of like follow one dancer and then to copy their style. And when I say copy their style, it means not only the choreography, but to the exact way that they look and the exact way that they put their fingers or something like this. They copy it down to that detail. And when they perform, they're performing as a kind of like a tribute to their idol, which I think is fine. It's fine if that's what you like to do, but I just feel like it holds you back as an artist, because when you copy somebody's style so exactly and so it's almost like mimicking, then you're not showing who you are. You're actually showing who the person you're copying is. So I've seen some people who copy Rhonda Camel. Some people copy Dina, and I've also seen some people copy anyway lots of other master teachers, and it's incredible. It takes a lot of work to copy to that extent, to that detail. But then after I watch them, I'm like, okay, but I could have just watched the original. I don't need to watch a copy. Um, so anyway, don't try to copy Dina's style. There is only one Dina. The sound quality is not that good. So the video is not that great here, but if you ever go to Cairo and you see her live, this is at the Meridian Hotel, and she's really really amazing. The charisma in this woman is just overflowing. Every single pore on her body is overflowing with charisma, and just doing just a little move and you can't take your eyes off her. It's like you're watching her like this, and of course your phone is there too. But I love her. Really really amazing. Okay, so let's move on to foreign dancers. Tamale, of course. For those of you who don't know her, she has her own style, and I would call it somewhere closer to Oriental American Oriental cabaret, something like this. But it's not only that. She's very earthy, and there is a quality in her movements that is just amazing. Okay, so I do have a soft spot for Tamerlane. I feel like out of a lot of the master teachers that I've studied from, she's the one who helps me the most to find who I am and how I should dance. And she doesn't expect any of us, her students, to copy her exactly or to do her choreographies exactly. And I think that's really refreshing because there are so many master teachers nowadays who want you to do their choreography like exactly like this. Um, so it's nice to be able to express who I am, even with the context or the frame of someone else's choreography. Another one of my favorites, and another one of my teachers that I study a lot with, is oh, sorry, wait, okay, is Nesma from Spain. I love this woman too. She has a quality in her movements, and her dancing is just so soulful and so her. Can't copy her. She even will tell us in the workshops and training that okay, you know you can learn this choreography, but please make it your own. Don't copy me because there's only one me, and that's true. You know. So watch this. This is one of my favorite performances of her. I don't know if the quality of the internet is good enough, but and she's wearing black on black, but this is an amazing.
لسه فاكر قلبي جديلك ولا فاكر كل حتى عين اللي كان لسه فاكر
So these are just little excerpts of people that I really love. There are others that I feel like who dance very much their authentic selves. One of them is Rhonda Camel. She has her own distinct style, and when she dances, she exudes so much confidence and so much charisma in every single movement. Of course, Bojanka, I really love the way that she dances too. She has her own unique way of listening to the music and the way of moving. And another Egyptian dancer that I really love is Dandash. I don't think she dances professionally anymore or on in the clubs. But if you ever see her teaching, you should definitely take her workshop. It's really wonderful to see how she interprets the music and how she expresses herself. There are so many others, but I feel like if you're not being sincere or not being authentic, this is something that is picked up by the audience very easily. You need to be true, 100% true and honest about what you're presenting up there. I wrote here, being your authentic self makes you more memorable because it's a sincere connection, a sincere presentation of you. And sincere is with all your heart, without worrying about what other people are going to say about your presentation. And it's not just um, it's not just something that only teachers or professional dancers can do. Even students can be an authentic self. I have a student who is always her authentic self, and I can't even get her to dance something that, that I'm like, okay, no, you must dance like this because this is a group choreography, and like this, and she's like off doing her own thing. And while it's hard for a group choreography, but in a solo it's really beautiful to watch because it's 100% authentic. This is really her. You are unique. There is only one of you in this world, so be you. You don't have to wait until, okay, when I'm really good at dancing, or when I'm really good, once I've mastered this movement, then I will start. No, you don't need to wait. You just have to do it now. Be true to yourself, be honest, and be sincere in your dancing, in your presentation of your dance. So this moves on to the how do you do this. All right, so I find, I when I was thinking about it, there's two levels, two layers of how to find your authentic self in dance. One of them is more psychological and more about working on your own self-confidence and self um, persona. And then the other level is, of course, how to use this, your self persona, into translating it into the way that you dance. So it's a twofold thing. You must know yourself first before you can present yourself to others, to the audience or to others. So if you don't do level one, then level two, which is the presenting, is harder to do. You can fake it, but I feel like a lot of people will feel that you're faking it. So let's let's continue. Okay, so know yourself. So this is the hardest part, but it's essential. So this is the level one, that you must know yourself before you can present it out. Before you can present it out to in your dance. Listen to your inner voice. So a lot of people have said that, oh, this is my gut feeling, my sixth sense, my your heart. So your inner voice will tell you what you already know. Actually, it's just that your head or people around you are blocking this, but your inner voice knows. Okay, turn off the noise and listen to yourself in silence, and breathe. I find that a lot of people, especially nowadays in the 21st century, we have so many things going on. And I'm guilty of this too. So I'll be checking Facebook or something, on my computer. The TV's on, my phone is on, so I'm doing three things at the same time, and I'm not listening to anything except what's around me. Sometimes I just have to turn things off and just go into myself and listen to myself and listen to what my body and what my heart is feeling. Um, Overstimulation and outside influences can alter your perception. This is 100% true, for sure. Um, okay. And if you have trouble to do this, you can try meditation, yoga, or other activities that help you slow down. Actually, just going for a walk will really help. Um, I really hate walking. It's not something that I enjoy. I don't enjoy going jogging or something like that. This is not something that I like to do. But I really enjoy being surrounded by trees and flowers and greenery. I really enjoy looking at the ocean. So I can sit in front of an ocean for hours. I can just do nothing and just relax there. So these are things that you can do if you don't like walking like me. And I only walk when it's cool, when the cool weather. When it's hot, I just don't. No, I don't do that. So, but there's so many things that you can do. I tried yoga, but that's not really for me because, yeah, just not for me. Meditation is okay, but not everybody can do it. So there's many things that you can do to help you listen to your inner voice. face your fears. So, coming from an Asian family, um, other people's judgments, and I'm sure a lot of you also have this, but I feel like in Asia, it's like the moms and the aunties are the worst. So it's not even my mom. My mom is super cool. It's the aunties. Anyway, so and their judgment of you and everything. So, but okay. So don't let your fears hold you back. Um, when you yeah, be brave and let yourself be vulnerable. So fear of being judged when expressing yourself, your emotions, and make yourself vulnerable to perceived rejection. So by I don't really mean real rejection, but more like, oh, let's say somebody is saying, why are you doing that? It's like you shouldn't be afraid of that. If this is who you are, if this is how you're feeling, then you should just feel it. It's fine. Don't worry about what other people are saying. And it is easier said than done, especially when you're still young. I am this year 44 years old, and I feel like the it's been only the last 7 to 10 years that I care less about what other people think. When I was in my 20s or teens or something, it was really hard, and even early 30s. So you will get there. I think that as you get older, you feel more settled in yourself. You feel more confident. I do know some people who are very young and who already are quite settled in themselves. One of them is my good friend Darren from Singapore, and I feel like he's very young, but he has a lot of wisdom that should so it depends, but being older does help. I feel like that in a patriarchal society in Asia, in Asian societies, that women are expected to be a certain way. So it was hard, to not being single, because I'm still single, and not having children and all of that, and it's not easy, but you can do it. I think that everybody is, as long as you're calm about it and not hysterical, and you don't worry about what other people are saying or talking, whatever, it doesn't matter. Um, when I told my parents that I wanted to become a belly dance teacher, they were really shocked. I mean, yeah, like literally, like what the hell are you thinking? So that was a big hurdle. And then another big hurdle that I had was being a plus size dancer. So I would often get people who just laugh in front of my face. Or when my parents, this is an example that I wanted to share. I used to invite my parents, my mom, to come and watch our school shows. And and then after the performance, everything was done. We were on our way home, and then she would be like, "Oh, that was a really nice show. All the students did really well. But that there was this guy who was sitting in front of me, and he was laughing when you came out, when you came out on stage and stuff like that." And after a while, she did this consistently. And I know that it's not that she wants to make me feel upset. It's just that she's trying to get me to lose weight, because she thinks that this is the way to do it. But after a while, I just stopped inviting her, because it was easier that way. Then I don't need to hear what other people are saying. I mean, they might be saying that when I'm dancing or when I come on stage, but I don't really need to know, because when I know, that it makes me feel upset, right? So that was my way of resolving it. So I don't need to hear it. I don't need to care. And it's been wonderful. And now that she started coming back and starting to come again to my shows, she doesn't do it anymore. And which is great, because then I don't really need to hear what ignorant people are saying. Um, yeah, so it's been a long journey and a difficult one, actually. But anyway, that's a different topic. Okay, so developing self-confidence. So I feel like this is really key. It's how to know yourself, how to be your authentic self. You need to be self-confident in yourself, of course. So do activities that give you self-confidence. If you love, for example, dancing, and you like to cross train, maybe you do. I used to do ballroom dancing, and I really enjoyed that. Except that I didn't like being a partner dance, because then anyway, the ratios at all these ballroom dance classes are always so many girls and like not enough men. So yeah, but do things that give you self-confidence. Surround yourself with positive and supportive people. I think that this is really, really important. Um, like my example with my family, it's they're not 100% supportive in the beginning, but at least at that time I had a lot of friends who supported me and gave me a lot of self-confidence, especially as a plus size dancer. Think of yourself. So um, dance for yourself, of course, because you it makes you happy, it makes you feel free. Don't worry about other people's expectations, except I must say here that if your teacher says that you need to practice, then you really need to practice. But what I mean by other people's expectations is maybe like, your boyfriend or your husband or whoever, who's like, oh, you should be like, you should dance like this, you should dance like this. No, I don't think so. You should dance for yourself and however you want to dance to. However you want to dance. And of course, if your teacher gives you feedback, then listen to your teacher. And enjoy. You need to enjoy what you're doing. If you don't enjoy what you're doing, then you're not going to want to do it, and it's not going to be something that is enjoyable for other people to watch. Okay, so let's talk about some practical tips. Just plugging in my okay. All right, so study and train. So the way that I found how to develop your own style and how no. So as a student, you're trying to learn as much as you can. The technique, the choreography, the musicality, how to all of these tools to help you be able to present yourself on the stage. So by doing that, how to do that, I feel like you need to study with as many people as you can, even if it's not your cup of tea. So I'm a kind of a slow dancer in the sense that I don't really like drum solos, for example. I don't like hard accents or like all these acrobatic stuff. If you ask me to do Iraqi Kaulea, the acrobatics, I will just die. It's not me at all. But having said that, when I was a baby dancer, I would still train with as many people who are not really my cup of tea, just to see maybe it's just something that I need to try, and maybe I will like it. So I feel like that's really important. Um, yeah, you should train with different styles, different ages, and different ages of teachers. What I mean is to see what works best for you. Honestly, I feel like to develop yourself, to develop your own dance style, it takes a minimum of 10 years plus. You can't have your own style after learning for only 2 or 3 years. Normally, maybe there's one or two dancers who immediately know who they are, but it's very rare. Talking about the studying and training tip, when I was a baby dancer, I was in Cairo and I was at the festival there. I took some private lessons with Dr. Mo Gadawi, and he's quite famous in the Oriental dance scene, and because he's one of the original Reda Troupe members, he teaches folklore. He's actually very intelligent, and the way that he teaches, I really like it because he has a system. So after my private lesson, he was talking to me and he was saying that he was recommending to me. He's like, Christine, and he's a man, of course, Dr. Mogadawi, but he was like, if you want to become a good dancer, don't train with a man because you are a woman. And I was like, huh? Doesn't he want my money? I mean, doesn't, because I like the way he teaches. I like the way he dances. And he's really clean lines and everything. But he's like, yeah, but you're not going to be able to develop yourself a lot if you study a lot with me. And I was like, what? So after a few years, then I was thinking about what he was saying. And it's kind of true. If you are a male dancer, you can train with a female dancer, but you need some sort of male guidance to kind of show you, um, not to show you, but to give you some sort of like a guideline, or like a stepping stones, kind of like to see. I know a lot of dancers, male dancers, who want to dance like a woman, and that's completely fine. But if you're a male dancer that and you want to dance like a man, you know, a male style, more like male style, then I feel like it's important that you have some sort of mentorship with a male dancer. And same with a female dancer. I see a lot of female dancers now who are completely followers of male dance teachers, and that's fine. That I feel like a lot of these male dancers are amazing teachers, amazing choreographers, but the woman, the female dancer, has something a little bit lacking. So they need to balance this out as well. And what he said on that day, I just can't forget it. It's been like, I don't know, almost 15 years ago, I think, that he said that, and it's still really fresh in my memory because he knows what he's talking about. Okay, so moving on. Move with intent. So when you move with intent, it's different from when you're moving out of um, out of reflex. So when you move with intention, you're moving it on purpose. And when you're moving with reflex, it's just a reflex. It's just your muscles moving. So when you move with intention, it's a mind to body and body to soul connection, because you are making yourself do this movement. So, and you're making your movement mean something. So it's the difference between when you're doing this movement. I like to do this movement sometimes in Taksims. So I can just wave my hand around without doing anything else. And this is just moving with no intention, because I could be swatting a fly, get out of here, shoot, okay? But if I'm moving with intention, then I'm actually using the muscles and flexing the muscles and moving my hand, okay? And if I wanted to add something more, I could add eyes and face and follow my hand. And this looks so much different than if I'm just going like this, all right? And this is another tool for you to show your authentic self when you're dancing. Okay, the next one is be present. So this, I think, is really important. If you are thinking too far ahead in the music or in the choreography or whatever you're dancing, you are no longer dancing in the moment. And when you are no longer dancing in the moment, then you lose that connection with yourself, because you're thinking, oh my God, 2 counts of 8, or like the next section is this, the next section is this, and then you forget this part and you're off, that's it, bye-bye. And then your head is here and your body is here. And this is not good, because then you don't have this authentic moment. Be consciously present in the moment. Move out of your head and into your heart. Let the music take over your heart and release your head, especially when you're improvising. I feel that this is especially important. When you're improvising, if you are not in the present, then it really looks like you're lost. You're just moving your body as wherever the wind takes you. So this is something that when you're practicing, it's really important to stop and just, I'm dancing right now in the moment. Okay. Choose the right music for you. This is really important. I think that you need to know what music is suitable for yourself, depending on what kind of dancer you are. Are you hard? What I mean by hard is like a hard energetic dancer. Are you soft? Are you slow? Are you a loud dancer? Are you a quiet dancer? I was in Cairo a few years ago, and I was dancing at Yasmina of Cairo's bed and breakfast, and we had like a little workshop with live musicians, and I was dancing whatever, and she was like, oh, you're a quiet dancer. And I was like, what the hell does she mean by that? But okay, but but what it means is just like that I'm not like in your face. This is hello me, watch me like this. I'm not like that. So and this is my personality. I don't really like to wear red, for example, because I feel like when I wear red, people are looking at me. I'd rather wear black. So if you see my wardrobe, I have like 2 closets full of black clothes. But it's my personality. So knowing my personality, knowing my dance style, then I choose music that suits me. I'm not gonna choose like a Maharganat song that that makes you want to go like this, because it's see, I do it really badly, but it's not me, So um, and then if you are a strong dancer, then don't choose a soft song like Tala Dalat. I think it's Tala 3 Dakat. There's a song, and it goes dun da da dun da 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 dun da da dun 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 dun. It's a really soft song, very like floaty, kind of romantic. And if you're a strong dancer who likes to do all these, tricks and whatever, don't choose that kind of song, because it's not gonna mesh well with your style. Okay, good. Lastly, okay, practice improvising. I love improvising. It is the only kind of dancing that I adore. I hate dancing to choreographies. I can never remember them. And this is good because I have a bad memory. But practice improvising, because I feel like the uncertainty of the music helps you explore yourself. Helps you to, well, first of all, you have to be present because you're improvising. And it's good to improvise to different genres of music. So this is why I know that I can't dance to Maharganat, because every time I put the Maharganat song on, I really love it and I'm going like this and whatever. But as soon as I start getting up and dancing, I'm like, this is weird. Just feels weird. So if you have iTunes, or if you have like Spotify, whatever it is, you can just put it on shuffle and put it on, set aside maybe like half an hour once a week or something like that. Put it on shuffle, and then you dance to whatever song that the algorithm gives you. And I think that this is a really great way for you to practice. You not only practice improvising, but you practice being uncomfortable because you don't know the song. So why do you need to be uncomfortable? Because when you're uncomfortable, then the more you practice being uncomfortable, then you're no longer scared about being uncomfortable. And that's when the magic starts happening. This is my theory anyway. Okay, so let's do some final notes. Be self-aware. I feel like this is really important, to be self-aware. Being self-aware of who you are and what you like and what suits you and your body. Be open-minded. I think this is also another thing. So don't be closed-minded. Be open-minded. Be accepting of different styles, different music, different movements, different teachers, for example. So all of this will help you to develop your own authentic self when you dance. Be confident in your choices. I think this is really important too. And there is only one you, so be yourself with no limitations. And thank you for listening to my lecture. Okay, does anyone have any questions or comments? I'm really thirsty now, so. Any experiences that you'd like to share?
Christine, I have a question.
Yes.
Sorry, I'll just put my video on in a moment. Hello, hi. So, hello.
Are you Gypsy Soul Dancer?
So I just wanted to know. Yeah.
Okay.
I to ask quickly, like when you're doing Rakshari,
I'm sorry, I can't really hear.
Be more. Okay, I'll just type it out.
Okay. I'm sorry.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is there any advice you can give to dancers who are scared of repetition? I think there's one big block as a dancer when you're performing on stage. You're just too afraid to repeat the movements that you've done over and over again. But I do feel like that's a quality that a lot of dancers have while they're doing the taksim. They're not scared to be in a certain place for a longer period of time. How do you think we could deal with blocks like that?
I think you need to put yourself in the audience's shoes. You know,
Right.
like when you hear the same refrain or the same two counts of eight of the same melody, the audience wants to see a repetition because it makes them feel like, oh, I recognize this. Oh, she's doing that again. If you keep doing something new, of course, this is in a normal performance, normal dancing context, not for competitions. But in a normal dance context, I think that it's really good to repeat, not the whole 4 minutes of a song, but for example, a certain melody, then you just do the same thing. And if you feel like it's boring, then you can change it a little bit. So what I do, for example, if I'm doing a hip drop for this four count, you know, two counts of eight, then maybe I'll change direction. I'll do the hip drop, but then I'll do it here and then going around, or I do a double hip drop or something like this. But it's essentially the same thing. I feel like people give the audience too much power. A lot of dancers give the audience too much. They think that the audience are going to get bored, but actually the audience are not getting bored. They're like, oh, great. You know, this is my favorite part of the song. It's this melody and she's doing the same thing. Yay. I know I know what's going to happen. So they're actually excited to see it. Not in a competition. In a competition, you show them everything you've got. That's another thing that I wanted to talk about for competitions. I feel like it's important to dance, or to, like, as a teacher, when I choreograph for students who for a competition, I choreograph with their personality in mind. So it's not like they're doing Christine's choreography exactly as Christine's doing it. I don't do that. I want them to dance like them. So this is the way that they're comfortable, and this is how they will show and shine their best self. Okay, when we're doing, we have a lot more film. We want to do to represent Egyptian. So Akshay, yeah, okay. So you're asking when we're doing Sharky, we have a lot more freedom when we do Baladi. Okay, so actually, I feel like when you're doing Baladi Taksim or Baladi progression, you also have a lot of freedom in that too. I feel like the only thing maybe that you have more constraints is probably costuming choice. I don't really like seeing people doing baladi in a two-piece costume, especially if baladi is the only thing that they're dancing. They're not. It's not part of a whole show or something like this. But for folklore, even I think for folklore, we have a lot more freedom than in a lot of cultures. For example, in Balinese dancing in Indonesia, when we do, for example, there's so many dances, but let's say it's dance A. Dance A has been done for 100 years, doing exactly the same. Every time the music is like this, this is exactly how you dance it. But whereas like with Egyptian folklore or even Middle Eastern folklore, we can actually choreograph ourselves, um, as long as it fits in within the guidelines. You know, like Hagala, for example, I've choreographed my own Hagala with guidelines, of course, from the Reda troupe, then the Kamea troupe, and you know, and seeing what I like from both of them. Or even when I'm doing Nubian, I love Nubian dance. Okay, but you know, they have the same steps, but when you hear different kind of music, then you can do something else. You can put in this thing, you can put in that step, and make your own choreography, even though it's within guidelines. I hope that answers your question. How to balance the aesthetics of the style with her own personal. Okay, so I don't quite understand. Shining, can you tell me what you're asking?
I think I was just rephrasing the question
Okay.
that I had, basically, like kind of what you were saying, like because I think the big question that I see a lot is that our focus is being style specific. Like I have to be as Egyptian as possible, or Turkish, or whatever it is you're focusing on, or I have to be Melody versus Sharky, or so like how do we represent that authentically, but still have our own individuality in the process?
Okay. I feel like
Sorry.
people are really too focused a lot on the different names of Egyptian style and or Turkish style and or Lebanese style and something like this. So this is my personal opinion. I feel like everybody's like, nowadays, everyone's trying to be Egyptian style because that's what's popular now. And whereas I feel like when you look at Egyptian dancers, they don't dance the same at all. You have Randa Kamal, who is Egyptian, and she's really, strong and stuff like that. And then you have someone who's really soft, like Kawakib, and then you have someone who's in between, like Aziza. So, but what they have in common, I think, all these Egyptian dancers, is they have this kind of like a soulful feeling, and it's not something that I can explain very well. But when I say, for example, that I'm an Egyptian dancer, but I'm not really an Egyptian style dancer, because I also do all this like funky Tamale style stuff and Nesma style, stuff that isn't really Oriental dance anymore. But I still feel like it's me, even though I'm not doing it in one particular way. I hope, does that answer your question? Yeah, kind of. Yeah. So I just feel like a lot. Oh, I'm Egyptian, or I follow Russian style. Well, okay, Russian style and Eastern European is a completely different ball game now. So let's talk about that some other time. But yeah, so I feel like it comes out no matter what you're dancing to. I think the music helps a lot.
So I have a follow-up then.
Oh yes, okay.
Because what you're talking about is really the worldview or the cultural expressions of individuals coming through in their dance, like especially, not to get into like the Eastern European thing, but like with Tamale or Nesma or any Egyptian dancers or dancers outside of Egypt, people can't get away from speaking from their own point of view, right? So they're going to bring in their cultural background, and their aesthetics that influence their dancing.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I think that Nesma, for example, she's a Spanish folkloric dancer when she was for many years as a child. So the things that she does is really has a Spanish flavor, to her things, to it, the way that she moves. And Tamerlane is Persian, actually, Persian dancing. She started off as a Persian dancer, so she has a lot of arm movements that are really very Persian instead of being Egyptian. But both of them, I actually feel like they're more Egyptian flavor than any other kind of style, if you want to say it that way. But I also feel like the music, for example, if I'm dancing a classical Egyptian song, then it will look more traditional Rakshaki. But if I'm dancing some new age music, stuff like that, then it's gonna be all sorts of, I don't know what, yeah, all sorts of contemporary. Yeah.
Hi, Christine.
Hi.
This is Nisa.
Hi, Nisa. How are you?
Nisa or Heather, whatever you want to call me today. Hey, I loved your talk, and I think you made this really concrete. I wish that I had more of my students on this call. I'm going to guilt trip them about not listening to this talk. But I wanted to comment on something, and if you want to comment on this or elaborate on your thoughts on the issue of how consumers pull you away from your authentic self. If you're, depending on the market you're dancing for, there's a pull or a push. And I think this is what, speaking for myself, why my performance contexts now are really limited, because I don't want to be pushed or pulled away from my authenticity. But I think some dancers are really struggling with that. Even dancers in Egypt right now. I was watching Yasmina of Cairo's documentary where she's interviewing Cairo dancers, and both the foreigners and the native Egyptians were commenting a lot on how, the audiences want shabby and fast and all the technique now. And, even the Egyptians are like, we don't want to just do moves. We want to have feeling, but that's what the market is demanding, you know, and it's very frustrating. And I think it's frustrating for dancers who want to be, especially working in like, you know, performing in restaurants and in private party settings and that part of the industry. So I don't know if you want to, it just came into my head. And I wondered if you wanted to comment on that.
So me, I don't actually dance for professionally, as in people pay me to watch me dance, because of my size. So it's impossible here. But I have my student group and they do shows. And one of the reasons why we don't do shows where where it's like an event organizer doing it because they want them to do it to be a certain size and then to dance a certain way. And I feel like it's really hard. It's really really hard, especially for the dancers who need to be dancing as a profession to earn money. I have friends in Australia who are professional restaurant dancers, and after a while, you don't do anything that is quote unquote meaningful anymore. You're just, you know, bopping around, having a good time. Ooh, look at my sword, you know, and like, you know, whatever is the hot new thing. Let's light something up on fire, and you know, whatever LED wings, whatever. But I respect them because they need to earn a living. Um, I think it's about how you negotiate with the restaurant owner. So I actually told them, well, in my experience with the event organizers, I actually negotiated with them and I said, okay, look, we're gonna dance with the LED stupid wings and whatever crap that you want, but I'm going to give you this dance after this crazy, you know, entrance to whatever crap, and we're going to do Méjancé after this. So I try to do that, and then we try to make our own opportunities to explore our artistic side, because it's if you don't, it's just gonna eat you up. I feel after a while, you know, the first few months, maybe the first year, you're so excited, you're getting paid to do your you know your hobby, you love dancing so much, and it's amazing, but after a while, you're like, do I have to dance to this stupid song again?
I
um,
agree with you 100%. And I think it's something, this is why I think your talk is so valuable, because I think that students, and I'm viewing this from the lens of my area, and I know every region I'm learning is so different. But when and I can count on one hand how many students have actually wanted to take it to a professional level. But when they do, we have to have that hard conversation of like, this is this market, this is this market. And I think that I'm really always trying so hard to tell them there's more than one way to be a professional. And like what you said, create your own opportunities, and you don't have to do the restaurant thing if that's not who you are. Like, don't be who you're not. And there's ways to stay who you are
while
in
making a
your
living.
identity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
So I appreciate what you're saying so much.
I totally agree with what you're saying, and it's really hard, especially nowadays. I find when there's a lot of competition for restaurant gigs, um, and it's really cutthroat. It really scares the shit out of me, and I would never. It's like my nightmare to dance in a restaurant. Ugh. Okay, anyway, but I do know that some people really love it, and it's a nice way of coming up with new choreographies. It just depends on the owner. One of my good friends in Australia, she has a very nice relationship with the restaurant, so she can do pretty much what she wants, and it's great. Then you have really nasty bosses, and you know, then they just want, you know, and they'll comment on how much you weigh and what size you are, and you know, that's just ugh, no, no.
And how old you are and what color you
Yes,
are,
yeah,
and
yeah, exactly,
on and on and on.
exactly, yeah. So it's I
Mhm.
don't actually think that it's not a great way of expressing yourself, dancing in these kind of places. Although I think that being in Southeast Asia, where places are cheaper, as in to rent, so I've been really lucky with my students that we can have regular haflas every 3 or 4 months, and the ticket's only like what, $15 per person, including food. And that's unheard of. Exactly, including food is really important. But we make these kind of opportunities, and even now with the coronavirus situation, I've given my girls a project that they have to choreograph to an Kalsum song of their choice, and we'll go from there and see what happens. um Akshay, okay, so I feel like when you're watching a lot of videos on TikTok or YouTube or whatever, I actually used to do this a lot. So if I loved a song, I would go on YouTube and search for whoever is dancing to this song, and then I'd be like, oh, so this is how they listen to the music, and this is what. But I would suggest to not do that so often, because then you're going to be influenced by other people. It's nice to do it sometimes when you're really stuck, like this part of the music I don't understand, I don't know what to do, I have a mental block. Then you can look around for inspiration, but try to be inspired and not copy. I think that's two different things. When you're inspired by something, I think that it's really nice. Maybe they have something in their combination that you really like. But when you're copying somebody, like not word for word, but like action per action, then I think that you lose a little bit. But sometimes you can get a nice combination that you can change to suit your character too. So it depends. Sorry, I'm not being like clear cut, but it really does depend. It's complicated. Anything else? Thanks, Akshay. Okay. How much to focus on styling and okay, so I feel like so with styling and technique, you definitely should focus on having your movement vocabulary strong first before you focus so much on stylization, because this is your alphabet. So when you're handwriting something and you have beautiful penmanship but you spell badly, that's not cool. So really I feel like people need to focus on the basics. I can't stress that enough. Simple shimmies, simple hip circles, simple hip drops. These are the things, this is your bread and butter. Yeah, if you have a sandwich. I'm going to talk about food because I love talking about food. So this is your bread and your butter. Your ham and your cheese and your salad and your cucumber, whatever. This is your costume, your little flares, your makeup, your jewelry, your whatever, this kind of thing. So if your bread and butter is some, hard piece of bread that's from yesterday, or like it's not even complete because your technique is not that great, then worrying about the inside filling is not going to help you much. I hope that answered your question. Yeah, but technique is really important. You need to drill them until your body is really comfortable with them, with these movements, and then you are free to fly and do whatever you like. Honestly, I was telling my students that if you're really so focused on choreography, you can copy a choreography from YouTube. Every dancer is putting their work on YouTube now. That if you really don't want to dance your own choreography, go to YouTube, look at it, and you can copy the choreography 100%. But if your technique is bad, no matter how beautiful the choreography is, you will look like crap. So yeah, I guess, sorry, I'm really passionate about that too. There's so many dancers, especially in my country, who in Indonesia, where they're like, oh, I want to do this hair flick, or I want to do whatever, this crazy stuff like this. And their basic technique is so bad. And then I'm like, but you look nuts. Why don't you just go back to the basics? Get your shimmy right, get your hip circles beautiful, get your transitions. Transitions are really important too. But they just like, oh no, I just want to be cool. I'm like, okay, if you want to be cool, don't come and learn from me. Yeah, okay, I'm really bad. I'm a really strict teacher. Go ask my students. I will yell at them. Okay, anything else?
Do you mind if I make a follow-up comment on that?
Sure, definitely.
One of the things I wanted to say about technique, that that I've noticed in my own journey through dance, because technique for me is something I don't feel very strong on. I've always been the like strong in improvisation and feeling. But yeah, the face you're making, like I've had people like Tamale and come up and be like, what are you talking about? Your technique's fine. And I'm like, you're crazy. But I think the problem here, the point I want to make is it depends what you're comparing yourself to. And this goes back to the social media thing. You know, we're seeing largely the trending influence of what we compare ourselves to is that Eastern European ballet influenced tricks above subtlety thing, right? It's not like, you know, the tricks and the athleticism of what's trending right now is amazing. We're, you know, let's just like, aside from where we think about it personally, like, right, like if we're comparing ourselves to that kind of technique, but we're not that kind of dancer, right? If we're more subtle, if we're not hard, or if we're just doing something different, it's easy to feel like our technique is crap because, you know, we're not,
I'm gonna
like,
stop you
for
here.
me, I'm not doing that.
Okay, wait. I think that you are the only person who feels like this. I think everybody else feels like their technique is good enough to do all those tricks. Okay, you know, I mean, not everybody, but
I'll just put that out there for the people who might feel like that.
You're one of the few. Okay, so I feel like when I see a lot of these dancers nowadays, it's like they're different versions of Barbie. And Barbie looks the same. You know, she might have black hair, brown hair, whatever. But to me, they all look the same. They all have the same costumes. And yes, I am jealous that they're so beautiful. God damn it, these women are like so beautiful. You know, their body shape, they're young. I don't think they're more than 25 years old. They have perfect skin. Maybe it's under lots of makeup, whatever, I don't care. And, you know, really long, thick hair. And, you know, really, they are very, very beautiful. They could almost be models. But I am not envious at all about their acrobatic prowess because, but this is also because I'm 44 and I feel like um, not impressed because I feel like, okay, if you really wanted to do that, you go to the gym, you go and train your ass off. And I mean, like all these, like, you know, pull ups and push ups and make your legs really strong. And if you have some dance talent, you can be like that. I'm telling you, anybody can be like that. If you have a little bit of dance talent, you train your body so that it can do all of these back bends and whatever, you can. Almost anybody can do that. You know, like the stomach flutter, for example. You know, in Indonesia, people think that belly dancing is the stomach flutter. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was so mad. But my point is, you know, but yoga people who practice yoga, they can do the stomach flutter. If you go to the gym and you do countless hundreds of sit-ups, you can also do the stomach flutter. I can't do it because my stomach's really big and it just doesn't work on me. But it doesn't mean that I'm not a belly dancer just because my stomach can't do a stomach flutter. So, Shining, you're amazing. I've seen you dance, okay? So, okay, be quiet. No, seriously, what I mean is like I've seen you dance and I understand that what you're talking about with the technique that these people are putting on social media, but it's nothing. It's just body control. It's like the Cirque du Soleil acrobatics. They practice their ass off so that they can do all those tricks and stuff like that. But it doesn't mean that what they're doing is, well, in the context without the music and the costumes and the fancy lighting or whatever, they're just contortionists and doing body control. But I don't actually think it's artistic anymore. And especially when it's like Barbie 1, Barbie 2, Barbie 3, Barbie 4, I honestly can't tell them apart. You know, people say that all Asians look the same. Well, I think all these people, they all look the same. So they don't have any individuality anymore. And I actually feel sorry for them because once they lose their body control or start getting like you know, the nerve that's pinched, then they're not going to be able to dance anymore because they've ruined their bodies. Yeah. So, anyone else?
Hi,
I'm oh,
Christine.
hi.
I wanted to ask you one question.
Yes.
I am a really new dancer. I mean, I'm talking from a student perspective. Like I've been dancing only for 2 years. So, and I feel really uncomfortable because, like, I just don't know. I feel lost all the time. I know the movements. I know what song I'm dancing to. I know the intention and everything. But it's just I'm too caught up that okay, what are the people going to think, or like I don't know because I have not figured out myself, or I don't know what I am feeling. I don't know what the audience is sitting there and be like what they are expecting. So how do you think a student can gradually like work along the path of figuring out themselves like from this stage where they're completely lost? Like I just know I like to dance
Yeah.
and I know for I will be dancing on stage for people, but at the same time I just don't want to get too caught up thinking, okay, what the audience want and I just don't want to do that. So what do you think can help
I
people
think that
like me?
it's really refreshing your question because too often I find that students have too high of a self value. So they think that after 2 years that they should start going pro. So it's really wonderful that you're asking this question.
No,
Um,
I'm very underconfident.
no, okay. So the thing that I think of is be kind to yourself. So it's an art form that takes time to really go get into your skin and into your bones. It's not something that you can just learn like that. You can learn the movements, but it's not really going to go under your skin until a lot longer. So if your teacher thinks that you're good enough to dance in group choreographies and to put on a little hafla and something like that, then I think that you should be proud of that fact and do a good job. And don't worry about what other people are thinking. Be kinder to yourself. You're not asking people to pay you money to dance. So you're not um, tricking them into, I'm a professional dancer after 2 years, and then make them pay for the show and stuff like that. So you're not doing that. So you're not doing something that's bad, um, and keep doing it. The more you do it, the more that I feel like you're going to relax into the movements, understand the music better, and just be more comfortable. It takes time. It's not something that's overnight. My students have been dancing. I don't even call them advanced students. Okay, I call them intermediate slash advanced, and some of them have been dancing with me for 10 plus years, and they come twice a week, and rehearsals sometimes. So sometimes it's 3 times a week, and it's really amazing to see their dedication and their commitment to it. And even then, and I'm like, you haven't been dancing. I can see it. Something like this. So yeah, be kind to yourself, but I'm really proud of them. They've come a really long way, and they're such amazing dancers now. um yeah, so give yourself time. I hope that answered your question. Yeah, be kind to yourself, seriously. Don't oh, I'm not good at this, no good at that. It takes time.
Hi, Christine. Can I ask a question?
Hi.
Thank you so much for your amazing lecture. So you spoke about some part about teaching, learning with multiple teachers, and what I'm going to like comment or ask, I think would be very personal or very unique to everyone's dance journey. So I'm sure everybody would love to learn from various teachers, multiple teachers who belong to various styles and have very individualistic interpretation and approach while learning through them. But how does like one maintain their individual style also, or how have you done that like while learning? And I'm sure this is different for every teacher. So when I started dancing, I was with a teacher for a very long time, and then since few years I've been able to dance with many, like learn from many teachers. And fortunately, luckily, it has worked for me. So I'm sure like different things happen with different people and it works for them. But how have you maintained your own style while learning from different teachers or while getting trained?
Okay, so for me myself, it was a little bit hard because I only took some beginner classes when I was in Australia, when I was studying there. And I came back to Indonesia and tried to continue to learn because I was shit. I was just a beginner, um, and it was really hard because nobody was really teaching. There was one teacher who was teaching class, She made everybody stand on a yoga mat. And then when she saw me and found out that I took some classes in Australia, she came up to me, touched my stomach, and said, "Oh, we're going to get this down and flat in no time. So then you can be a really good belly dancer." So anyway, so she was the reason why I started to, God damn it, I'm going to teach, because so it was hard. So then I took workshops with a lot of people, as many people as I could find. And then I started with private lessons because I don't have a teacher here in Indonesia. So I trained a lot with Tamale, and I trained with a Canadian dancer called Hadia. And then after that, I trained, kept on going for workshops, went to Egypt, took lots and lots of private lessons. And then I found Nesma. So this is how I learned with a lot of people. So in a situation where you have a teacher, like for example, my students, and I'm their teacher, but I try to encourage them to take workshops with whoever they can, whoever comes to Jakarta if they can't leave the country, and just to learn. So maybe, for example, teacher A that comes, they take one workshop, they kind of like her, they don't really love her style maybe, so it's fine. Then the next time teacher B comes and then they really love her, so then they learn from that. The important thing that I forgot to say is that when you're training around, I don't mean train technique wise. So it's good to train under one person until you come to a certain point, until you want to start exploring your options in the sense of different musicality, ways of listening to the music. Then you can start seeing around, seeing what's out there, seeing who speaks to you musically and who speaks to you stylistically. But the technique is all the same, should be, if you have a good teacher. There are so many bad teachers around, but anyway, but the technique should still be the same no matter who you learn from. So you learn from one person and then you branch out, and maybe you like tribal style, and maybe you like fusion or something, and that's fine too. But it's just something that you can explore and still maintain your course.
Hey, Christine, I had a question.
Yes.
Yes. So the thing is, I train in both tribal fusion and oriental.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to know, is it okay for someone to, be an oriental dancer while still, having training in tribal fusion, or if someone can be both tribal and oriental, or is it difficult to have both body languages and things like that? Like, this is a very tricky question. So like, I like both, but I don't know which one to choose. So like,
Okay.
I don't know which one to choose. So should a person choose, or or can they do both?
I'm gonna get into trouble for my answer, but so I feel like with Oriental dance, it's like the roots. So if you wanted to be a tribal fusion dancer, you still need to learn Oriental dance techniques. And then you need to learn another type of dance, maybe ATS or something like that, or whatever else you want to fuse it with. You can't just fuse whatever with Oriental dance. So yes, you can do it, but you need to work really hard because the aesthetics of the dance are completely different. For example, I feel like with tribal, your arm styles and some of the turns and some of the aesthetics is different. The way that you listen to music, and even the music choices, it's not even Arabic music anymore. So I personally don't think that you can do both unless you've done both for a long time, or you've done one for a long time and then you want to go this way, and that's fine. But it's hard, in my opinion, for a tribal fusion dancer to go and become Oriental, but it's because they have to go that way, go against the flow. Whereas if you wanted to be an Oriental dancer that moves to tribal fusion, then that might work because the basics of the movement are rooted in Oriental dance. I hope that answers your question. I have a student who's also a tribal fusion dancer. She's here somewhere too. So yes, she knows my views about this. And then there's a lot of things that when you're saying tribal fusion, there's a lot of questions about cultural appropriation and stuff like that. So it's a little bit tricky at the moment. Um, yeah. So yeah. Sorry. I know it's not the answer that you wanted, but yes, definitely get your Oriental dance basics strong, and then you can do pretty much whatever you want. Okay.
Hi, Christine.
Hi.
Hi. So I have a question. So can I ask?
Sure. Yes.
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for this. And my question is, when it comes to a group choreography or it's a choreography, so my transitions are like very smooth. So I know 1, 2, 3, 4. So these are the set of the steps which I have to follow. But when it comes to the individual one, then sometimes I felt like there is not a continuation in my movement. So sometimes I do one movement, then I go to another. So can you just help me with that?
Okay. Why do you feel like it's not as smooth as in your group choreographies?
I feel it's smooth in my group choreography, but not when I'm doing it all alone.
And you're watching and you see the video, or okay. Could it be that you're practicing your group choreographies more because it's a group, so you have to be like in sync? So maybe that's why. And if you practice your individual solo, maybe if you practice more, then maybe it will feel more smooth. Could be, because I know that for my students that they practice a lot for the group choreographies, and sometimes they forget to practice their solo, right, Inda? So so maybe that's one of the reasons. And then their solo choreography suffers. And I understand, because in the group choreography you don't want to let down your friends and your classmates, so you want to do a good job, so then you practice together and you put all of the effort in, so you don't let anybody down. And I think that that's great, because in a group, everybody, you're only as good as your weakest dancer, so this is good. But if you're also doing a solo, don't neglect that. So try to practice more. I'm sure that if you're smooth and transitions are really good in your group choreography, that you are able to do it physically in their solo. It's just that maybe you haven't practiced enough. Yeah, you can't get past the teacher. Okay.
Christine.
Yes. Hello, my
Hello.
love.
Okay, I've got a question. And okay, because I'm coming from a man perspective, but in to comment on being okay. So, for example, we now know that there is a rise in male dancer, right? And there are a lot of people taking up male teachers' classes. So, how is it different that a male student can maintain being true to himself despite the context of an oriental dance like that whereby it requires softness, very feminine feel and style to it. So for example, in social context, in contemporary context, people will probably say that that's too feminine for a male to do. But what if that is just who he is? So the question here is, how can the man, or how can a male student maintain that individualistic while still learning from different various group of teacher? Or how do a female also understand that whatever she's learning from a male teacher is authentic?
Okay, so I'm gonna take okay, this is kind of hard, because I feel like with male dancers, some male dancers really want to and do dance like a woman, and that's fine, because that's who they are. They want to express themselves that way. They want to wear a dress. Go ahead. Okay. So, but with the male dancers that still want to maintain their maleness, their yin and yang, the yang part, I feel like it's a matter of well, it's good if they have some other dance training besides Oriental dance. Because I feel like, for example, with you, you are an excellent example of a male dancer who does Oriental dance, but maintaining your masculinity. Whereas I feel like men who only learn Oriental dance, and I mean belly dance, not folklore, um, and if they only learn from women, the way that they dance is going to be quite feminine. So they have to cross train. I feel that it's really important for male dancers to cross train. And then about the male male teachers who are now really popular and everything, a lot of them actually, when they dance, they don't dance the way that they teach. Yeah, but they're, of course, they're not going to be as feminine as a female dance teacher, because of course they're a man. But I think that as a female dance student, or someone who's taking their workshops, we need to be smart when we go to their workshops, because maybe they're doing something that looks good on them because they're men and they're stronger. You know, men are much stronger. Do you know, have you seen this guy? I forgot what his name is, but he's dancing with a veil, and he's doing all of these, really amazing things with the veil. I can hear the swooshing, swoosh, swoosh, swoosh with the silk. But it's because he's a man. We women, we don't have, most of us, or not all, we don't have that upper body strength that a man does. So you can learn it from his workshop, but you're not gonna dance it like him because he's got all these muscles that we don't have. So we have to be smart. Okay, so if I take a workshop from this male instructor, then I like this part and I like this part. So we have to change it a little bit to our bodies, because our bodies are different. Just look at the shoulder shimmy. You have no boobs, so how are you going to make them shake? Something like this, for example. Yeah, but I definitely think that cross training for males is really good. And it's really important, I think, for men especially, to know who you are when you're dancing, because it's so easy to be caught up in this oriental dance, you know glitter and glitter explosion, and flowers everywhere, and like, highlighter, makeup, and all that. And if you want to be a, a male dancer dressing up like a woman, that's fine. All, kudos to you. But it's so easy for you to lose yourself as a man because you're dancing a woman style. Yeah. I hope that answered your question. Does anyone else have any question?
I always have more questions. So feel free to disregard me or tell me when to stop.
No.
But, and sorry if you can hear the background. There's like little girls outside or whatever in the pool, so they're very loud. I was going to ask if you could just comment, because there are several teachers here. Comment about authenticity in teaching style, because there's a lot of different ways to teach, and I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on approaching that.
I really hate American belly dance teachers who will be like, engage your muscles, and then you do it like this, and then they sound like they're doing like a yoga track. You know what I mean? This, I don't appreciate. I shouldn't say I don't. Okay, I just don't appreciate it, because I feel like they're trying to be this idea of what a teacher should be, what a zen and like calm and sophisticated teacher should be. Whereas I feel like it's better if they just teach the way that their personality is, and let the dorkiness shine through. But it's hard, especially if you're not used to teaching. Like, I think that to be a good teacher and to be a good dancer is a completely different skill set. There are so many great dancers who can't teach. And I know, I've been to their workshops, because I'm just like, what is she doing? This is, what is she doing? She's an amazing dancer, but then she can't translate that to teaching her students. And it is a skill. And I've attended workshops or private lessons with teachers who I want to say can't dance, but I don't mean can't dance. I mean that they're not the best dancers, but they have a lot of knowledge and then they can watch you and watch where your weight is and watch what you're supposed to be doing and tell you, oh, you're not doing this right, you're not doing this right. So it really takes a special skill, yeah. And you have to be authentic when you're teaching. If you're not authentic in your teaching, then I feel like you're not going to have, I don't want to say groupies, but like your fan club, because it's like very generic. It's like, okay, engage your muscles, and now do the shimmy, and then, do the arabesque here, and breathe. Don't forget to breathe and be beautiful, Sorry, I know, I'm really stupid. I'm dorky. I'm very dorky. Yeah, but Yeah, I think that my favorite teachers have been teachers who really are true to themselves as dancers and as teachers, and not afraid to admit that they don't know stuff. You don't have, we as teachers, we're also students. We're also learning all the time. It's not like we stop learning. The teacher who stops learning starts to die, because then you're not going to progress anymore. So yeah. Anybody have more questions? Yes, I agree. Yes, I agree with you, Nisa. Um, yeah,
I
I
didn't want to be a Budinsky on that.
no, no, I agree with that. It's just that I'm trying to simplify things because it's really hard. Like I was in China. I don't know, Shining, if you saw, but in China and in Korea, sometimes the male dancers there, they almost want to be like women. So that's who my references are. So they'll have.
Yeah. I think that the problem is that people need to get away from just what they see on the workshop circuit and start looking at regular people.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're seeing it filtered through like the people on the circuit, and a lot of the people on the circuit are ex-folklore people, and the folklore troops are so it's a very definite lens of masculinity. Like Retta and Kalmia definitely have an idea of what's appropriate masculinity, and it doesn't really match up with on the ground attitudes of masculinity sometimes. I mean, when you look at some of the social dancers, there is no difference between how men and women are dancing.
Yeah.
But definitely from the perspective of somebody from the folklore troops, they find that abhorrent, and they definitely will try to steer male dancers a certain way, or else they'll just be like, yeah, just copy the ladies, which I think what you're saying is important about for the men to find their own identity, and not just to be a carbon copy. So anyway, I'm sorry, I don't want to be a Budinsky.
No. I forgot. I should have put Tito in. So one of my favorite male dancers is Tito, and because he is actually not from folklore, he's actually an Oriental dancer, and he has his own style. It's not. He's doing exactly the same movements as a woman would do, but somehow he doesn't make it look overly feminine. He makes it himself. So I think that he's a quote unquote success story in this example, in the sense that his authenticity comes through. But I think that he's a little bit jaded. But anyway, that's a different story. Yeah. And I think that male dancers have a challenge for sure, doing Oriental dance and folklore and stuff like this. And it's hard. It's hard, definitely for male dancers too. It's hard for all of us who are not Egyptian. I mean, finding information and stuff like that. It's not easy.
Yeah, but can I add just a little, because I'm a male dancer, so I can add a little bit of some information here. I think what Nisa said is pretty true. It's about really finding like self-identity as a male, in fact as a normal human being. But just because in the context of male and female, then yes, finding your identity as a male dancer in a scene would definitely help you a lot. Having been trained in modern dance and ballet, there is a lot of rules behind it. Like the man will have to be the one carrying the woman in parade, in a group, I mean in duets, and the man is always the one leading the women. So and modern dance is a little bit more free, but it has come to a point whereby in belly dance, when I first started, it was very difficult to find that that identity, because number one, I'm only surrounded by women. And the male teachers that I have or I follow are pretty much like most of you are mostly mainly folklore, from the folklore troupe. Yusri was one of them. maybe except for Khalid Mahmood, because Khalid is trained under Rakia, so it's very, very different in terms of the way how he teaches his class. And Tito, I mean, I've taken his class before, but then Tito didn't really communicate much in English, so there was a huge language barrier to communicate through what he thinks should, or what a man should be doing. And it's true that for a male, it's a long process for us to find who we are in a society, especially in the context of belly dance. Because again, I have students who refuse to take classes from me, or whatever it is, because they think that because, number one, I'm not female, which is true, because I can only teach what I know in terms of what my body physical traits can do. And if there's some things that I cannot do, I wouldn't say, oh, I'm going to teach you that, because again, my body frame is very different from a female. My hips is definitely not as wide as a woman. My ribs is definitely much more wider than a woman as well. So there are a few things that I know I can and cannot do. But as a male dancer, I think it's very important that it's so important, so important. I cannot emphasize this more than enough, to really find and be comfortable with yourself, despite what contemporary culture is telling us what we should and should not do as a male. And I think that applies to women as well. And it's just it's something that, of course, we, for as a male, have to go through. Just, you just shut away the noise and just do what you do best. Now my thoughts just went off the window, so I don't know what I'm gonna be talking about. I don't know, stop blabbering around. So that's what I had to say.
So those of you who don't know, Darren is like my brother. So we actually do a lot of projects together, and I love the way that he dances, especially on his body. It's so sexy and amazing and so beautiful. And I really encourage my girls to learn from him too, even though he's a male. But he has, what I mean is, like, there's so many things that he can teach that I can't. And whatever he feels like his girls need a dose of cutesy Christine, then he'll send them my way. And then we do this kind of exchange, which I think is really good, because he knows himself very well, and he knows what he's able to teach and what he's not able to teach. Or actually, it's not, he is able to teach, but some students, they need to see it, before they can copy it. So on his body, it doesn't look that way. So then that's why he's like, here, come, Christine. That's what I mean. Yeah. So I'm really happy talking about this subject. Actually, it's really important to me. I feel like it's something that is underrated, especially now with all these, like, choreography only classes, and honestly, everybody looks the same, and I really can't tell them apart anymore. Yeah. Somebody raised their hand, but I don't know who it is and what they want to say. If you have a question, just unmute yourself, because I can't read as fast as I'm doing this. Yeah. So if there's no more questions, Shruti?
I think Akshay has another question. He's asking, as a golden era enthusiast, I have a question. My personal dance is heavily influenced by it and looks perceivably golden era framework. How do I make it look like me and not branded as copying golden era artists?
This is like a big topic that I was actually thinking about recently, because of all the what is it called, where they recreate the videos of the golden era dancers. Akshay, you don't look like the golden era dancers. I don't look like the golden era dancers. So no matter what you do, you're going to be unique. That's the first thing. And I think that it's nice to borrow some movements that are golden era. I mean, golden era is not really like a style. It's a period. But my point is, like, for example, the crossed fingers and some of their little, like, head flicks and stuff like this. That's little signature movements. But it's definitely going to still be you. Nobody's going to be like, okay, that movement's from Samia Gamal, or that movement's from Tahea Carioca. It's not going to be that way. So don't worry too much about it. Yeah. I was a little bit upset about this whole golden era recreation part, because I was thinking, even if I wanted to do a video, it's not going to look the same because I don't look like them. And, God, I don't fit. No, I could wear their costume, but it's going to look really bad. They're two-piece, whatever. Yeah, I don't show my stomach. So, so it's, whenever I do any golden era inspired kind of choreographies or dancing, it's really, it's actually Christine's interpretation of golden era, of what she thinks is fabulous and elegant for that 30s style. I don't even look like any one of them, and I'm not doing any of their movements.
I think Shining made a very interesting point the other day when we were talking about this for Radio Rux, which is the interview on Instagram, and she was talking about how she not necessarily like copies the framework or anything. She takes herself and puts herself in that particular period. So that makes a whole dramatic shift, because then you're not trying to be a Tahia or a Samya, but you're trying to be yourself, but you're placing yourself in a specific period, like a 1930 or a 1940, which I thought was a really refreshing way of putting it. So that's just an observation. But
yeah, I totally agree. I think that is a really great way of doing it, especially when we can't recreate the look anyway.
Right.
Being a male and being an Asian overweight dancer. Yeah. So
or being a middle-aged white lady.
No, trust me, with makeup and lighting, you are still gonna look like them. Nagwa Fuad, hello. You could be Nagwa.
Well, I don't want you. I don't want to say that. Don't put yourself down, because like I think we have a very narrow perspective on what dancers in that era looked like too. Like especially if people are only ever seeing Samia, and Tahia to get like the top 5 dancers of that era. Like there's all body shapes that you can see in the videos. There's multiple different ways of dancing. I mean, we identify golden era with like the standard frames, right, and like a softness and a certain style of music. But you do all of those things, like what Christine's saying, you do all those, we're not in that context. You have to work really hard, to create the environment. Like the show that happened in January, like people, or not in January, like in May or whatever, some people did a really good job, like with filming and lighting and costuming and everything to make it look like they're in the golden era, but it's still different because they live now. They're going to move with their own influence. So it's just, like marrying the aesthetics, like we were talking about with other things earlier, and just recognizing that you're yourself and not trying to be someone else.
And I also wanted to point out that I was discussing with Sahra, I think, I forgot, but I forgot who it was, but she was like, but Christine, you know that in those movies, they only pick the pretty girls. I was like, yeah. They don't pick the really, maybe the dancer who's good but not as pretty, or maybe she's a little bit darker. They don't choose them to be the star of the movies. So I was like, yeah, that's true. Okay, so if there's no more questions.
Can I have a question?
Yes. Hi, Icha.
Hi. So, as a fusion dancer, thank you so much for talking about this lecture. It is helping me to know, to be me. And my question is, do you think I know tribal belly dance basically is Oriental, so that's why I'm here. And then when I saw all the tribal belly dancer, they are, sometimes this is tribal fusion hip hop, this is tribal fusion contemporary, and so on and so on and so on. They do racking and everything. So, is it good for me to learn all of that dance or just focus on one or two dance? Just maybe Oriental, and then I love contemporary and just contemporary because I cannot do the racking thing or, and then popping, locking, backbend. It's hard.
I think you
But
already answered your own question. Because I feel
no,
like
because sometimes the tribal belly dancer they they talk to me like, why you do like this, why you enter oriental class. This is tribal fusion, is not belly dance, but hello, your movement is oriental. So
that's,
sometimes I just confuse.
but I think that you have to see who's the one who's commenting, because if they don't know much about things, then their comments shouldn't worry you or bother you at all. So you can just go, yeah, 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 okay, bye bye. Yeah, but I really think that Oriental dance is the basic level of the tribal style, whatever. And then if you wanted to add another style to do fusion, I think that would be amazing. Um, you don't have to do so many styles. Just concentrate on another style. For example, contemporary dance. That's fine. And then just do train on your basics. And then all of this fusion is actually your own creativity. Like Darren is an amazing fusion dancer, and there are so many amazing fusion dancers, and I really respect them because they have to be good in two dances, not just one. I'm only good, well, okay, let's say I'm good in one style of dance, So if you want to fuse, you better be good in both. You can't just do a little bit of this or, go to YouTube University.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So don't worry about what they're saying. I know what these girls are saying. Hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's true. YouTube University. um. Any other questions? I honestly feel like this is about finding out who you are as a dancer, and sticking to your guns, even if you I don't know, even if you feel like you don't fit in and the stuff that you're doing is weird or something like this. But if you've trained properly, in the sense that your vocabulary, dance vocabulary, is stable, and you know that you've trained properly, you can do pretty much whatever you want, and that is who you are. I mean, it doesn't have to be strictly Oriental, Egyptian Oriental style or whatever. It can be like, Shruti style or shining style, and that's fine too. And it's still beautiful. Um, yeah. Okay.
Do you think that that is the ultimate goal as Oriental dance artist, to get to the point where you're no longer in the box of being Egyptian?
Actually, I do. I really do. That would be my goal, is to be like people coming to me and be like, Christine, can you teach me your style? That would mean that I've made it. You know that guy on Guardians of the Galaxy, with yeah. But what I mean, okay, so I feel like it also depends on the music. If you're doing a very classic, very traditional piece of music and you're dancing to that, then yes, it's very nice if you keep yourself and your choreography to more conservative lines. But if it's another kind of music, then it doesn't really matter. You can really go off and explore more. But this is just me. This is why I love people like Tamale and Nesma, because they're doing their own thing. They don't really care too much about what other people are saying about them. But they're doing their own thing very well, which I think is amazing. And they're not trying to copy people or do something else that's not them. Yeah. And I feel like you're doing your own thing too, so which is great. Does anyone have any more questions or comments? I'm really happy to just chat if you want to and listen to your issues or comments or your journey. I put on makeup, you know, washed my hair.
You know, we really got to make the most of having the makeup on.
I know, right? I don't want to waste. I have a friend who's like who's teaching English online at the moment, and she was like, "They only pay me how much, and they don't deserve my expensive lipstick." And I was like, "Okay, they go get my Sephora lipstick, not my Bobbi Brown or whatever." Yeah.
I'd love to hear. I'm really curious about other people's struggle or journey with trying to find their own voice. So if people have like comments they want to say that, or maybe like a moment where you started to, maybe from Christine or Anissa or anyone who wants to add to the discussion, but when was like a moment that you recognized your own voice, like as being this identifiable thing? I don't know if that's a good question or not. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
You feel like there was a moment for you where you went like, you could feel your style or your sense of dancing?
I don't think it was a particular moment, but being a bigger dancer is you're kind of forced to do your own thing because we can't even fit into the same costumes that other people can wear. Like so there was this big belly dance theater audition that they were going to go globally and everything, and a lot of my friends had auditioned and they made it to dance in the chorus and whatever, the chorus line basically, and they used this competition to basically make a name for themselves. Oh, I won this competition and I danced in this theater show that was around the world. So I emailed the organizer, and I was like, not the organizer, the troupe producer, and I was like, so is it worth it for me to audition? Because I'm bigger. So are you just gonna discount me right away? And she basically told me, yeah. She's like, because number one, you may not be able to keep up with the rehearsals, and number two, the costumes are not gonna fit you. And that basically was like, okay, yep. So I'm not gonna go down that road, and I'm gonna go down a different road. So I find it's probably easier for bigger dancers or male dancers to quote unquote find yourself because we're forced to do it. Whereas if you were a hot young thing, you're expected to follow the path, win competitions, get famous, and then like start teaching workshops and then like dancing everywhere. So yeah. But I feel like Americans are actually pretty good at it, at finding dancing their authentic self. Maybe because you guys have been doing it for so long. I mean, in the sense that it's come from a long time, so then people have developed. And then you have East Coast and West Coast. You have such a big country that people have different dance styles and personalities. Whereas in newer countries, I mean, not newer countries, I mean places where it's newer, then it's harder for them because they're still exploring. I don't know what.
I feel like, yeah,
Oh, sorry.
I feel like it's true in the past. Now we have the same kind of thing that you were talking about that's pretty much happening globally, and I think it's very social media influenced, and it's having the same circuit of teachers, is like people are copying more and more because the context of how people learn has changed. Didn't mean to interrupt you, Nisa, sorry.
Oh, no, don't worry about it. I was just going to say, in the United States, it's very locality dependent. Like in different regions and even in different cities, there's different pressures. And like when I was starting out here in St. Louis, the pressure was you have to have that weekly restaurant gig or you're not a real professional. And I did that work in the beginning because I thought that's how you're a real belly dancer. but knowing that I really didn't, I wanted something more than that, and it wasn't fulfilling. And but in the bubble that I was in, it wasn't until I pushed outside of my local bubble that I realized that there were other realities. And honestly, I often credit taking Journey Through Egypt with Sahara that put me on a new path and kind of reconnected part of my authentic self, which is my academic brain, with my dance brain, which were not together in the beginning. And then I started to feel much more at home. And then things that I was doing in my research kind of just found their way into how I danced. And then I realized, well, okay, I feel like myself now. And it wasn't a process I went through intentionally. It just, you know, I kept trying things until I found the thing that was my thing. And then for me, that was very impactful as a teacher, because it was like, I got to let my students know that there are a lot of valid paths. And I didn't want them to feel the same pressure that I felt, which was, if you're not dancing in the local hookah bar on Saturday night, you're not real. And I still get that from local people. Like, I'll tell you guys a story, because some of you can probably relate to this. Like, and it's kind of like, Christine, your audition experience, but in a different way. When Belly Dance Superstars were touring, it was the club belly dance where basically the Miles Copeland was exploiting local dance communities by having them post and do all their advertising and everything. And one of the local troops organized it, and she called me up, and she was trying to use my connections with a theater that I do events at. And I'm like, I can't help you with that because I teach at that place, and that's why I get to use it. But anyway, so they were scheduling it for a Tuesday night, and I said, why in the world are you doing it on a Tuesday night? And she's like, well, because most working dancers can't go on the weekend. And I said, I teach 14 classes a week at that point in time. I'm a working dancer, you know, so it just, in her mind, I was not a working dancer because I wasn't dancing in the hookah lounge on Saturday night. And I was infuriated by that. And I hate that mentality. So I guess I'm on a soapbox right now, but this is why I think what you're speaking on is so important for new dancers, that you'll know who you are when you land in that space. It'll feel right, you know. But also on the Egyptianness issue, part of, in the culture, the most value is placed on being yourself as a dancer. In Egyptian dance, if you are a carbon copy of another dancer, you will not succeed. How many people got dragged by Egyptians because they were copying Dina, right? So it is quintessentially Egyptian to be yourself and to be unique. So I feel like I've found my Egyptianness by allowing myself to be who I am as a dancer. It's like quintessentially Egyptian to just do you within the parameters of the aesthetic and the technique of the style, you know. Like, there have to be parameters, or else it's just a free-for-all. But, you know, but anyway, sorry.
No, I completely, I love
this
that.
is bringing out emotions, Christine.
No, but you're completely correct, because I feel like you're right with Egyptians, especially if you look at all the Egyptian dancers, they don't dance the same. They don't even, they're like water and oil, some of them, but they're all quote unquote stars and popular in their own way. I just feel like with outside of Egypt, where everyone's trying to copy each other, and that just really blows my mind. Ugh. Yeah, okay. I'm this meeting is recorded, so it's my copy. Yeah. I'm gonna get in so much trouble.
You gotta keep telling it like it is, girl.
But I'm gonna get into so much trouble, especially with the male dancers. So, oh my god! But honestly, that is what Dr. Mogodawi told me. So I'm just quoting him. Yeah, I feel like it's wonderful to see people's uniqueness in their dancing. It really is. If everybody danced the same, then I'm just gonna go to bed because I've seen one, I've seen them all. I really, honestly, especially in the competitions in Asia, it's really, really. I won't. I don't even want to be a judge anymore. It's an honor, but I'm just like, oh, unless you pay me a lot, then I don't want to do it. Yeah, it's really not good. I don't like it. But I feel like a lot of people need competitions to improve. So that's what they need. So that's what they do it, and that's fine. But it's important. It's really important to be yourself, to be authentic. Shining, any comments? Oh, Aaron.
I think it's also I think it's also partly got to do with like cultural upbringing and society surrounding as well. Like I think for us Asians, right? I'm speaking from as a Singaporean. So in Singapore, the context is that you go to a good school, you get good grades, you get a good job. I mean, I'm sure this system works everywhere else in the world as well, but I think it amplifies in Singapore because of the way how our history has been. So in Singapore, a lot of people find it very difficult to be authentic. Like the word authentic is never in a dictionary. It's never in ever appear in your life. Like when you tell them what authentic is, they were like, I'm sorry, authentic. Am I not being authentic? What is authentic? So the big question is, what is authenticity to a lot of Singaporeans? And this is just normal layman. I cannot imagine if, let's say, for example, any dancers, if you would in Singapore, if you tell them, oh, just be authentic, they'll probably be have to like, I think I need to go and find a recipe for that. I've met a lot of people in Singapore who feels like that there is a form of difficulty to express their true self. And it's very interesting because getting to hear the stories, I then realized that it's really got to do with cultural upbringing, how we were taught to behave in society or around with people. So therefore, it kind of like closed up part of who we are inside. And I think this started as early as 7 years old as a kid. Like people start having trauma when they're 7 years old because that's where you start to remember everything at 7 years old. And it really start so much so important as a child. When I was a child, my dad and mom always tell me that boys have to be boys. Like my dad is always forcing me to join the army. And of course, in Singapore, all men have to go through like 2 years of service in the army, and it's compulsory. And you know, it's it and it will feel like as a man, there's already a form of belief and context that a man should be like in Singapore. So I can't imagine being a dancer. It's very difficult because there are a lot of male dancers in Singapore, not belly dancer, but just male ballerinas and contemporary dancers. They find it very difficult when you talk about authenticity. They wonder what that word is, what's that magic word behind it, and they equate that to being vulnerable. Like if I'm willing to cry on stage, or if I'm willing to just no. So it's very cerebral. Like it's just I understand the concept, but it is not somatically in the body or in practice. So so I really think culturally is very, very important. Like depending on where you come from as well. I think I won't speak for the Indians, but when I was in India, I also saw a very, very different cultural exposure as well, like how men are like there and how women are over there like. And I compare myself like, when I'm in other people's country and I see how they are like in terms of being able to be themselves. I cannot complain because this is a luxury already for me to be dancing, because in other country the guys are like being hanged, just being dancing, or they're being whacked or slammed, or I don't murder. I'm not sure whether you read of this or watched this film before, in Turkey. I think the film is called Zen Dancer or something like that. That the parents kind of knew like the kid is homosexual, so the mom hired a hitman to kill his own son. But the only way for him to get through his beingness is being with a male belly dancer, because he's identified as a queer person in that region. I'm not sure if I can remember it, but if you watch the film, it's very, very interesting. It's a story called Zen Dance or something like that. But yeah, I'm just saying that in culture context wise, it's very, very different as well. So I think that do plays a huge part.
I think so too, because I feel like in China, in Korea, they put a lot of emphasis on memorization, and conforming, and a lot of the dances are group dances. It's not even a solo, and you have a set guideline of rules for this dance form. So I understand why. It's just that when you have the chance to be free, you should take it. If you wanted to be a conformist, then go do another style of dance. Don't do Oriental dance. That's what I feel, because this is the one dance that you can do so many things and be free, quote unquote, and older and bigger, and it's very nice. It's a very generous dance form, I think, and male. See, so many different differences that make us all special. So let me see. Okay. Any other comments? We could go on and on and on about this. I'm telling you, we should just all go to a camp. Okay, I don't do camping, but like kind of like a camp with like nice beds and nice rooms, and then we can stay up all night by the fireplace toasting marshmallows, and it's like we could just talk all night about this and other subjects. Yeah, I don't even do camping. Maybe I don't know. I have to try it. um yeah. So
I had something to share.
yes.
So, like over in the past years, I had a lot of weight fluctuation myself, in terms of my body, and that kind of really influenced my dance a lot. Like right now, I'm slightly on the heavier side, and things like hip hits and things, because of that extra fat mass, the hip hits look far better than like what they used to when I was skinny. So like that is something which also changes somewhere the kind of movements which look better on you. Like I'm not saying in a very narrow minded way, but yeah, like when I was skinny, something like flowy used to look very good on me, and right now when I'm like slightly on the heavier side, hip hits and things of those sort look good on me. So that was something I noticed.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. I think that it's really important to know your body and to see which movements look good on your body. Undulations look like crap on me because it just does. You can't see it, no matter how big I make them. But undulations look really good on someone who's leaner, because then you can really see the movements. So yes, for sure. And I think that this will influence your style as well, what your body shape looks like, and it should influence your style. Thanks for sharing. I also fluctuate, but I don't go down. I always go up. I don't know how I am. See, my students saying glamping. I'm like, no. um, yeah, this is thank you so much, Shruti, for doing this. It's really nice to share, and I feel like being in Indonesia, except for my students, I really feel like I'm alone, and I'm really grateful for them because they feel like they make me feel like I'm not alone on an island. Me and Darren, we talk a lot because, well, we're good friends, but also the time zones and everything. But I really feel alone in Indonesia. There's nobody else who's doing the work that I've been doing. I've been teaching for 15 years, and we are the only Oriental dance school in Indonesia. Um, I mean, just I don't know when did belly dance start in India? Do you know?
I think around 2006 or 7.
You see, I brought Oriental dance to Indonesia in 2006.
Right.
So, but still, until now, we are the only Middle Eastern dance school. The others are just not interested in learning about the culture or stuff, and not even interested in learning about technique or choreography, much less about the cultural context.
You
Um,
know, something I found while I was living in China, it sounds like dance is still pretty new there. I think maybe like 18 to 20 years ago, she said, so, like the first dancer brought it in. And I was talking with Katerina Shireen, who has been teaching there for like 10 or 12 years, and she's saying only now are they starting to get to a point where people are becoming curious about the culture and about something more. It's like I feel like it just maybe this depends on how it develops in the country, but it's like people need this base. Like in general, if you look like they're getting, if it's a technique and athletic driven culture, right? Perfection, the exactness, that's what they're driven by. And once you've filled the tank with that, and you feel like you're missing something, or you're not quite, you're not able to replicate, then you start looking for something more, or they hear, as the teachers are coming in talking more about the roots and everything, then the curiosity starts to grow. And I feel like it's sort of just a macrocosm of a lot of people's individual experience in dance, where they didn't come to the dance because of the culture. They came for fitness or for fun or whatever, and then eventually developed an interest.
yeah,
But that's just what I noticed in China too. Like the method of learning is different, but it's still so new there that people are only like sort of coming to the grasp, I
yeah.
guess.
But I also feel like in China, it's really definitely a language barrier. Not a lot of people can speak English or read English, and that is the main issue. But technically, they're very strong in China, in Korea. Their technique is amazing. But whereas
It
I
should
feel like,
be an issue though, because there's plenty of people who speak Arabic. I mean, like they don't need to speak English, right? They need to speak Arabic, and there's a lot of teachers there that go to Egypt regularly because it's much. I feel like that dancers in Asia and Europe have a much higher advantage because it's a lot easier to get to the Middle East from where you're at. I mean, I guess from China
from
and the US, it costs about the same, and it's about the same distance, but it just feels closer. Like I see a lot more of the Asian dancers going to Egypt than.
but I also want to say that a lot of Egyptian teachers aren't great at teaching Egyptian stuff. Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that it takes a skill to teach, and maybe not all of the teachers that they learn at the festivals are teaching well. They're teaching movements because that can be copied, and maybe the students aren't asking the right questions too. I mean, so let's say they speak Arabic, but they're not asking the right question. They're not asking the right person. And like, for example, the folklore troops and the folklore teachers now, um, when I was talking with Farida Fahmi, she was saying that a lot of the Reda troop teachers now, they're not even really Reda troop. They might have worked with them for a semester or a year, and then now they're marketing themselves as Reda Reda teachers, and stuff like that. So but in Indonesia, it's a problem because we're not even there on the technique yet outside of my school, and it's really sad. This is why one of the reasons why I'm very upset even after 15 years. Outside of my school, really, it's really really bad, and I don't know how to change it.
I think Christine, in areas where you have newer communities, look at the United States as examples of how not to do things. And that applies to a lot of different things, not just dance. But, we have decades of history and legacy, but in spite of that, whoa, we have a lot of problems. And I mean, just speaking of my local community, I mean, it's a microcosm of a lot of what the problems are, because I am now the only person in my city that teaches actual Arabic dance. It's all fusion outside of me. And the dancers who start in those contexts don't know what they don't know. And this is a systemic problem in the United States. And I mean, so in some ways, you have an opportunity you got kind of a clean slate, and although it puts a lot of pressure on people like Shruti, that you're like pioneering an industry, but you're also starting without the decades of baggage and bad information that I'm sorry, I'm saying too much.
So when you were talking about this, I had in my mind this photo of a tribal dancer at a tribal convention dancing with a mannequin's leg on her head, balanced on her head, and there was like fake blood on it, and yeah, so that's American. And so that's why I was laughing, because
it wasn't like, there used to be more traditional Egyptian and other styles in my area. And what happened was, so many of the teachers were trying to foster like, everybody can do whatever they want, so that they keep enrollment, and they're not willing to give like a lot of critique to their students, and filling students' ideas with, they know everything and they're a star, and it just spiraled with people starting out, like you said, 2 years and they think they're a professional. But in this case, it's not just performing, they're out teaching. And it becomes this vicious feedback loop where you have inexperienced teachers and then their students are teaching. And it just drove the market to such a point that, you go to a belly dance show here and 90% of the show is non-Arabic music. I mean, and I'm not exaggerating that. There's shows I would go to where you're lucky to hear Arabic music. I have a student from Lebanon, and when he moved to this area, he just Googled, belly dance shows and found one of these events and kind of happened into it. And he said he didn't quite know what to make of it, because it was all American music and, like dubstep and stuff. And he's like, but I thought it was a belly dance show. And this is our world now. This is our world. And, I think now with movements, like with people getting more aware of, cultural appropriate, we're allowed to talk about it now, apparently. And, whereas before people like me were branded, the ethnic police, like, you're cramping my art, you're limiting my art, you're telling me what to do, art belongs to everyone. Now I think people are understanding, hey, there's this thing called colonialism. Maybe you should learn about it. And I think that sensitivity is growing, but it hasn't penetrated down to my local level yet.
Wow. No, I'm sorry. That's all I can say.
I could tail end that with, the comment you said earlier, Christine, about like, go do some other kind of dance. I think because from someone who started out in tribal fusion and then went into Oriental and having to tribal fusion, right? Like, what am I fusing? I don't know because I don't have any of the roots yet. But I think, we can look at the US and see that how do I say this succinctly and not go on for an hour and a half? You said something about Oriental dance allows people to find that thing inside themselves. We have that's a special feature of this dance, that it somehow allows people's spirit, their authentic self, to come out and be developed, especially inside cultures where they might not have had that opportunity before. So there's that. So maybe it starts out there, but then people want something to be culturally relevant. And so what I see, like the big thing with fusion happening in the US, is that people can't connect with the culture of origins, and so they're trying to, make their own understanding and their own culture and their own music fit, instead of just finding a dance form that already does that. Like they see the feeling, the special space it opens up, but they don't relate to the cultures of origin. So they're trying to put those two purposes together and coming up with something that has developed enough at this point where it, in a lot of our views, ought to be completely separated from Oriental dance. That's just my perspective on it.
And to piggyback on that, I would say that in my experience, like in my area, when I see a lot of dancers who are labeling themselves tribal fusion, they're actually trying to be contemporary dancers, but they don't want to bother to go through the rigors of training of being a contemporary dancer. You have to go train for that, y'all. And these are dancers who take a few belly dance classes and then they want to tumble and emote on stage, and they're trying to be contemporary dancers. It's very frustrating to me. Like, pick a genre and do it.
I call these people doing confusion dancing, not fusion dancing. Yeah. No, it's right. I totally agree with both of you. It's really, I don't know, I don't even want to touch that pool. It's just, you want to be a fusion dancer? Okay, go. Be free. Don't come to me. Free, fly, go away. It's really hard. I find it really hard. Although I think that if they're really serious about it, and like a contemporary dancer came and said, I really love Oriental music, I really love Kulthum, how can I, combine this? Then I'll be like, great, you are exactly what I'm looking for. I don't want somebody who's just, taken a year of belly dance maybe, and then like YouTube University for contemporary dance, and then I'm doing contemporary fusion. I don't like that. That's not cool, because it's confusing things, and it's not, you're not doing any service. You're doing a disservice to both genres. One of our main tribal fusion dance teachers in Indonesia, in her biography, said that she learned contemporary dance by herself. She taught herself contemporary dance in her biography. And I'm just like, okay, yes, good for you. I have no comment. But
and that's so disrespectful to that genre to say that, for people who go through years and years, decades of training to perfect that form. Yeah. That's the thing to me, is like, respect the forms that you're dancing and educate yourself, and then, like Shining made the point that fusion is fine. And the point you made, if somebody who's a contemporary dancer came to this and wanted to do something creative, by all means do it, but do it from an educated place with intent.
Yeah, but it's really hard for some people. Yep. No comment. Done.
Because everybody has to be a star.
Oh, don't you know that's
Well,
the
and
whole
also
reason
remember there's a learning process, right? Like people don't, when they start out, they don't know what they don't know. And so like for me, you know, it wasn't until I had an invested interest and then came across teachers who had the right information that, you know, I got put on a path of authenticity or cultural appropriateness. So, you know, I think it's important to have that measured perspective, which is so hard because it's really like, as you know, professionals and as teachers, we want to just be like, oh my God, what are you doing? And then realize like, okay, these, you know, like everyone goes through a point. I don't know where everyone is. I don't know their story. But, you know, if you're going to put something on stage, you have a responsibility.
I didn't just call it fantasy, right? But yeah, but I don't want to be the ethnic police either. What is it called? Ethnic police? What was it? Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, never mind. Shruti, I don't want to comment on Balanat.
I'll comment on Balanat. I have no problem commenting on Balanat. I mean, they came to St. Louis. I saw the show years ago, and I was furious. I was infuriated because they showed at the opening, they showed the black and white documentary of Jamila talking about fantasy origins of the dance. So everybody in that audience sat there watching this film thinking they were hearing real history, when even Jamila Salimpur has said that it's hokum. And then the dances were labeled with specific ethnic names. So you had a Gawazi dance, you had a Moroccan dance, you had a Tunisian. They were not those things. Don't get me started about the Gawazi dance in that show. And, you know, I wouldn't have been furious if they didn't present it as ethnically authentic, but they present it that way. They're disingenuous when they say that they don't, because they absolutely do. Because there were people in that audience who I know from my local community who walked out of that show saying, it was so good to see the history and the origins of this dance form. And I wanted to jump off a bridge. So those are my thoughts on Balanat.
Yeah, no, yeah. Anyway. Yeah, and then don't even get me started with the facial tattoos and I think that if it was happening in any other culture or any other country, for example, in China, in Indonesia, something like this, where we're not as woke, then I wouldn't be so upset. But in San Francisco, is that where they're based? They are like in the most wokest place of the United States. They should know better.
I posted about this not too long ago, you know, because I've seen a lot of people in the tribal community now posting about Black Lives Matter, and for me it's very frustrating because I support that movement and I think it's important that the dance community support that movement, but they're not addressing the elephant in the room, which is the ongoing erasure of Arab people from this dance form. And this is something that continues in the United States. Like, this is why I enjoy international calls like this and I can't shut up, because when I talk to international dancers, it's not even a question of keeping the ethnic origin of the dance in the picture. But in the United States, that's not been the case. And it's treated as optional. You can't be BLM over here and then, you know, playing dress up and in your Arab exotica and dancing to Nine Inch Nails on Saturday night. You know, it's maddening. It's denial.
Yeah.
I think it also, when I said earlier, like in American dance past, we had a closer connection to the culture. It's like because dance developed in the context of all of these clubs where you had people from the culture playing music, owning the establishment. They were the main audience. And so a lot of the dancers, whether they were really interested in learning about the culture, they would pick things up and then they maybe would see the regular people dancing and learn from them. And now it's like, the Arabs and Middle Eastern community they don't want anything to do with the belly dance community in most of the cities that I've lived in. Like there's a total separation because they're disgusted by what we do. Also, it's culturally irrelevant. It's outdated for second or third generation immigrants and things like that, which is a separate issue. But like that, I just wanted to make that comment. Like, yeah, there used to be a lot more of that close connection, and it's basically disappeared. It doesn't exist anymore in most of the communities that I've lived in.
I think a lot of tribal dancers that I've met, they don't like Arabic music, so they don't connect with it. So they connect more with Linkin Park or stuff like that. Seriously, they and I think that okay, if you wanted to do it, a performance to an American pop song or rock, whatever it is, that's fine. But to label it as belly dancing, then they can call it just tribal dance instead of tribal belly dance or something.
That's always been my stance on this. Just call it something. Like I think that the reason people hang on to belly dance is because they're in the English speaking world. There's a general understanding of what that is. Even if it's not totally accurate, there's an understanding of what it is. And you get bodies in the classroom when you label your class belly dance. And I think that it's disingenuous when dancers say otherwise for why they're holding that name. Because English speaking Arabs, when they say belly dance, they mean raksharki. That's what they mean. They don't mean ATS. They don't mean tribal fusion. They mean raksharki. So as long as that's what it means to them, that's what it means to me. And so to label a show that's just everything but the kitchen sink a belly dance show, it's just a naming issue. Call it a variety show. Call it World Fusion. Why, holding on to the name is what's terribly frustrating. And Shining's point is valid too, that part of the reason that this continues is because there isn't a strong Arab presence at events that are belly dancer oriented events. So unless you're dancing out in like at private events where you're hired by Arabs, you don't have the checks and balances that working in front of Arab people creates. So they're not, in other words, there's not an Arab calling them on their BS.
I think that's pretty much the problem in India as well. I mean, there's a lot of, we're connected by the internet now, and we have really no excuse when we say stuff like, oh, we don't understand Arabic music or belly dance music, we can't connect with it, because have they really tried? Like there's this feeling where, I think it's just this, I'm just gonna sit in my place in my room, and whatever's on my playlist, I'm going to start moving to it, and then I'm just going to infuse whatever I know of belly dance technique and then call it belly dance fusion. I don't think people really want to just like step out of their comfort zones and really just want to explore what this has to offer, because honestly this is like, I don't know, like 10-15 years worth of knowledge and music. And I just feel like, how much of the music do you really listen to for it's not prevalent in India as well. I was just trying to add to that point.
When I start teaching my students, I always start them off with more westernized Arabic songs, because it's hard to listen to like Baid Anak, it's hard for the newbie to go and they're gonna be like, oh my god, what is this? Is this, is this the because we have mosques here, so they're like, oh, I know what this is. This is the call to prayer. That's what they think it is.
Yeah.
But it's not an excuse. And then I think that we as teachers, our job is to teach the students and not let them just do whatever the hell they want. I mean, if it was their preference, they'd just do drum solos and like Nancy Ajram songs or Shabi. Now, this is what they would want. But we have to like force it down their throats somehow, in small increments. So you're still the nice teacher. Yeah.
Yeah, there's this huge conversation happening about this right now in India, and I was talking about this with Badria and Shining as well, like in bits. I mean, there's this huge wave of fusion in India, and not just any kind of fusion. I think we're still in a place where we're trying to discover what fusion really is, because up until this point, up until like I think the last couple of years or something, and especially because everything is so driven by Bollywood, and that's such a driving force in our arts community, like in our arts and culture. I think fusion up to like 2 years ago was Bollywood fusion, where you're dancing to Bollywood numbers with Egyptian technique and stuff. And now because there's this huge wave of wanting to go forward and not being, and this is something that I've received from somebody as a comment, you're constantly stuck in the past. And I was like, okay, I mean, that's a comment that you want to make, that's okay, but everyone's having this conversation about, oh, tribal fusion is the new thing, mixing whacking with certain styles, or doing contemporary or something. That's the new voice in India at the moment. But I don't see that level where people actually want to ground their education in a solid foundation. I think we've completely missed that step. I don't know, like I don't know if it's, I don't blame the system, but I just feel like it's just an opinion. I feel like we've completely missed that system. But when we have the opportunity for it, people still want to. I don't think it's just convenient for people. I think it's convenient to call it whatever, belly dance, or fuse it with something that they're comfortable with fusing it with, and not be confined to the traditions of what traditional raksha is. So it's sometimes, for me, to be honest, it's personally, and I don't mean to turn this into a rant, but sometimes it's I don't want to turn it into a rant, but it's a little frustrating sometimes, because I feel like I don't know. I don't know how many of you agree with me on this. I think my students will know how frustrated I am sometimes, because I often rant to them, not about tribal fusion dances or anything. I'm not against it, and I'm not the ethnic police. Definitely can't be. I'm still a baby in the industry. But I don't know. I just feel like sometimes, you've missed an entire step. Like, there's so much going on here. Like, why are you pushing for something? I mean, you go on the path that you want to go on, but there's a process to it. But I don't know. I'm not sure if this is happening everywhere else, but in India, it's pretty.
Shruti, I think what you're saying, like what I've noticed is that, I don't know what it's like in other countries, but in the US, it sort of has to do with what Nisa was talking about before, where people have been misled into believing that belly dance is very easy to learn. That's why we have so many of those 6-week wonders, is because people in the culture have started to assume that it's, you take it for a few weeks, you learn the 10 moves, and then you can do anything. They haven't been taught that it's difficult. They haven't been taught that it requires cultural study and intense education and inculturating yourself in order to understand and people don't have the mainstream idea that it's a difficult dance. And I think that plays into it a lot. Is it like that in other countries? I'm curious. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. I think so.
Yeah, I can speak for Singapore as well. I think in Singapore it's pretty much the same. Like we have a lot of dancers. Okay, the age group of a lot of dancers in Singapore are between 30 to 50s in Singapore. And mostly in Singapore, we call them the auntie groups. So because usually, they have given their life in their youths, giving birth to kids, being a mother, being a housewife. And right now, they are at this age whereby they are just wanting to spend their time and their money just dancing. And they feel like they have this conversation and a narrative that they don't want to do the history thing because they feel like, what's the point? For them, their purpose is to just go there, take the class, dance, and that's it. And it's been like that for many, many years in Singapore. And it's very difficult. Like, I understand your frustration because there is like, something seems to, the pattern is not broken, hasn't yet been broken because everyone is still going through that cycle of like, okay, I'm just a housewife and I'm now spending money and I'm just gonna learn from the dance. That's it. I'm gonna go home to my kids and to my home. I feel good in my costume. I perform. I feel validated. I love to go on stage. I feel good. Blah blah blah. That's it. And then boom, this conversation is shut. And to get the younger ones in Singapore, like in those within my age, from the 20s to the 30 groups to do belly dancing, it's out of the question in Singapore because number one, they think it's taboo. Not in a bad way, but they feel like, oh, it's something too old, it's meant for like old people to do it. Just because the representation were a lot of elderly women who did it in Singapore. So a lot of them are not willing to do it. So it's a lot of passing things like, yeah, okay, I seen belly dancing happening online, but I'm just not interested to do it. So it's about question is more of like how we can keep this very engaging for people around my age or the younger generations. That's one. And the second collective thought would be also how is it can we as a community of belly dancers also contribute to the society whereby when they look at it and they go, okay, this is something that I can relate to and it's something that I'm willing to give it a shot. And I think it's, again, like I say, it could have been cultural differences as well, depending on where and how is it like in your own country and how society is like for you. But speaking only from Singaporeans, I think at my end, it takes a lot of enrollment and conversation, pep talks to even engage younger folks to even be interested in something like that. And I also feel like maybe because like belly dance is oriental dance is not like any other dance that it's easily recognized by as performing arts. Like when someone talks about ballet, immediately they think, oh yeah, it belongs to the theater. Oh yeah, it's done this way. Oh yeah, I know that. But when it comes to belly dancing, they're like, yeah, I don't know how to glamorize belly dance, ballet as equivalent and stuff like that. So the conversation, it's a difficult conversation for a lot of people, but I think not many people are ready to have that kind of conversations as well. So I'm not sure about other country, but that's what's really happening in Singapore. So there is like a fluctuation of interest and then it just goes down. Interest and goes down. And even if we were trying to like open more classes for the younger folks, we're finding creative ways to bring the younger folks in. It's also very, very difficult. So I think my fear in Singapore is that there might be a phase that the belly dance scene might just die off for a while before it picks up again. And I think that's really something that's happening here in Singapore. Because the most pioneer one that we have has already retired. She don't want to dance. She can't move. We have all the great pioneer teachers who have moved out of the country. And also we have like great, beautiful dancers in Singapore, but I think some of them just don't want to move way out from their comfort. Those who've been in this industry for more than 10, 15 years, they are just here already. Like I don't see them in talks like that. I don't see them in online lectures that are offering, like they are free. I don't even see them appearing on that, things like that. So, okay, it sounds like a rant, but I'm not ranting. I'm just sharing. I just realized like the whole entire bullet just.
Next time, the Beyond Belly Dance 5.0, you should make a rant session. Everybody, 10 minutes, take turns. Pass
We'll
it
have
on.
yeah. So yeah, I'm just saying that's how it is like in Singapore. But
step by step. I'm sure some things will just happen also as well. So not the baton next whoever's the next one to go.
Pass the asaya. Yeah. Yeah. It's not easy for sure. We don't do this to make money. We do this because it's our passion. I think that's for sure, for sure. And of course, it's fashion, like people joining belly dancing is like fashion too. It's gonna be up and down. I thought that the movie Aladdin, the Disney movie remake of Aladdin was gonna be like great for belly dancing, and then I watched it and I was like, this is all Bollywood. So it's really good for Bollywood, but it's not good for belly dancing. I was like, what? Anyway, so mad. Yeah, I'm really happy we had this sharing session.
Yeah, we thought there would be another Shakira wave after Shakira was in the Super Bowl.
I totally thought it's like going to be the Afro-Cuban style, which is like sweeping the world right now. Like everyone's like, oh, it's going to bring back belly dance. I'm like, no, it's not. It's all about Latin dance right now, man.
And twerking.
And twerking. Yeah, combine those. I know we've been going on and on for a while, but I was going to make a comment, and luckily it just went out of my Gemini brain, so I'm going to shut up.
I'm a Gemini too. I forgot when's your birthday.
May 25th. I remembered it though. Unfortunately for you, so we're gonna keep going. If that's okay, I can make the comment. You said something. Come on, come back into my brain. Oh, we were talking about like where the industry is, right? And like having all these frustrations, and the thought that just occurred to me, like listening to everyone, is, that it cannot be compared to ballet, and we need to stop trying, and we need to get our audiences to stop comparing it to ballet, and they're not going to stop comparing it until we can acknowledge that it's a separate independent thing, and I don't know exactly how you do that yet. But I really feel like we're globally so frustrated with what the dance is because it's not meeting our expectations sometimes, that we have to find what the value and the quality is in letting it be itself, like it is a dance in the restaurants, in the hookah lounges, and in some places and not in other places, and where is the value and what is the purpose of that, and how do we teach our audiences that it is a multifaceted thing that is not at all like ballet. So that's just some thought that is coming across my mind lately, but I think it's a real struggle for us as an industry, where we see the interest dropping, we see the old venues dying, and we're trying to figure out how do we keep this going, how do we build the industry maybe in countries where it's newer, and let it maintain its authenticity as an art form, as an industry. How do we use that for inspiration?
I hired a ballet teacher to come and teach my students, because just to strengthen their feet and to do certain things, and I actually asked her to come and watch our performances, and she was like, oh my god, I didn't know this is what you guys were doing. Because she thought belly dancing is just standing around jiggling and not doing anything. I mean, what she terms as anything. So a lot of them, they don't know what we do, I find. So I think that's where the misconception comes from, and the kind of like disrespect. Yeah.
I'm curious to hear from you all in other areas. What are there other cultural dances that are popular among hobbyist students? Because like here, people can take classes in Polynesian dances and in flamenco and in Indian classical dances. And any student going into those classes fully expects that if you're taking a hula class, you're going to dance to Hawaiian music and you're going to learn about Hawaiian culture. If you take a flamenco class, you're going to dance to Spanish music and learn about Spanish culture. I really struggle with why we continue to have this disconnect with this dance form, that it remains detached from its culture. I'm curious whether in your markets you have markets for other cultural dances, and is it the same kind of disconnect where people go to those classes and are like, yeah, I fully expect to be learning cultural stuff, where they walk into a belly dance class and they want to, put on a coin belt and wiggle around?
So in Indonesia, they think that belly dance comes from India. Like
A
every
lot of
single
people
time.
think that here too.
So they come into class and they're like, "Oh, are we gonna dance to this famous movie, whatever song, that's hot in Bollywood, whatever, the movie song?" And I was like, "No, that's Indian." But isn't belly dance from India? And I was like, "No." Yeah, it's hard. I think. I don't know. I just find it really funny. I was like, oh, once I tell you to start doing this, then that's gonna be Bollywood dance. But no, we don't do that here. I had a Bollywood dance teacher who came to my studio and taught Bollywood classes, and that was great, different. But I'm like, but it's different.
Yeah, I think
I have
in
something.
yeah, sorry, Akshay, just go ahead.
No, this was something I noticed, like even when like doing whacking, like of late in India, whacking, like it has become very popular to do whacking on Bollywood music the way it's done in belly dance. Like in India, it's very popular to do belly dance on Bollywood music, almost to the perception that like people send me videos of these people dancing belly dance on Bollywood music, and they ask me, why don't you dance like that? So in whacking also, like people actually do not go back to the history and try to learn what the exact music back then, what it was learned to, or the historical context of it. Similarly, like even when it comes to belly dance, that is the thing. And one thing which I particularly noticed, like if we learn Indian classical dances over here, people are expected to know the theory of the music in detail, but that does not apply to belly dance, which is something like which I've noticed like it lacks a lot. Like people do not discuss the theory of Arabic music and musicality, and it's like I was just reading this one particular book, and I was just amazed to know how detailed even that goes into that.
I think it's our job as teachers to teach our students about that. You have to, because even if they're not interested, do you know how many years it took my students to learn like Saidi rhythm and Masmoudi rhythm and and then I'm like, okay, so what rhythm is this? It's like nobody's looking at me, and I was like, do you know that? Do you know? So, but you just have to, because they have to learn at least a little bit. India's a good one.
Like sometimes I feel okay, this may go a bit down south, but sometimes I feel that people teachers also concentrate a lot on rhythms, and there are other melodic aspects to Arabic musicality like call and response and things of those sort which are actually not discussed a lot more, which is something I feel is lacking. Because like overall, due to the popularity of drum solo, people do discuss the concepts of music rhythms a lot. But then there is other there are other aspects to Arabic musicality as well, which are like very nice. Like particularly, I really love the call and response factor of a balladi progression. So these are the things which are also lacking.
Yeah, I think the basic rhythms is probably the number one step, and then like you can build on top of it for ballady progression and stuff like that. I wouldn't teach beginners ballady progression; it would just blow their minds. yeah, they wouldn't come back. They'd be like, no, what is she talking about? I'm not coming back. You can take my money this month and I'm not coming back.
My
Yeah.
perspective on that's total opposite though. And I think you know, my teaching experience has probably been very different than your guys's, where I haven't been consistently in one place long enough to like get that student body that's working from the beginning through. But when I've tried to do most of the classes that I've done that are in person have been run as beginner classes, and I jump right into that kind of content, the history, and I, you know, start with a small lecture to like give them some context, because from my perspective, like Westerners coming in learning, or foreigners coming in learning this dance, like in order to really understand what they're doing, they need to have the context. And I think that doing things like melody progression or giving them the like authentic, like really cool, interesting music is gonna, you know, like make them more interested in it. Now, I mean, like I could be totally wrong, and maybe it scares some people away, but that hasn't been my experience so far. But my process and the students that I've had have, you know, like the whole thing is probably very different than where you've been at. But I feel like I feel like people are too afraid to try doing that from the beginning. And I really wish that I would see it from the beginning more, because that might instill people's expectations. Like it would drive away the people who are there to be belly bunnies, and it might actually start to bring in people. Or, you know, like I think that if people went in to try a class to be a belly bunny and then found out that that's not what it was about, that would change the public expectations slowly. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's my feeling on it.
I think
Not saying that's right for every audience, though.
But it's a hard balance, though. Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't want to scare them away, and I get that it's overwhelming, you know, especially if they have no connection to it at all. It's the first time they've heard it. But I think that a lot of people come to dance and stay with it because of the music and how unique it is.
For sure, for sure. I think that it's, I start teaching quite early on about cultural context, where it comes from, folklore, you know, stuff like that. But what I was talking about is like the first month of like complete beginners. Yeah, that would scare them. I don't even choose very hardcore music at that point. I choose something more light, and then we start, you know, I start adding stuff. But it's been a hard few years actually, hard 2 or 3 years.
I think a lot of this discussion now is revealing like one of the root issues that we have is in teachers, you know, and teachers maybe not working on their own education, not being thoughtful about how classes are formatted and class content, because here we're all here talking about, yeah, of course we got to teach about music and cultural background, but there's so many teachers out there that don't think about that at all and don't talk about it at all. And that's what I feel a lot of the uphill battle is like we're fighting against that. And I think now I'm going to get philosophical. But in, you know, the culture in Egypt, this is everybody's dance. Like people grow up with this dance, and just the nature of Egyptian culture is they're okay living in a space where things aren't neatly defined, where there's a lot of ambiguity. And I think for a lot of students coming at that, at a dance form, well, I should say teachers approaching a dance form that has all this ambiguity and fuzzy borders, they struggle with, you know, they tend to fork in two directions. Either they try to make this they try to impose structure on it to make it a palatable curriculum for their students, or they go the other way, like, well, it's a free for all, you know, so let's do what we feel, man. And that's, and the thing is, there are parameters, just it's not neat like in ballet where things are so rigidly structured. So it's finding that balance, learning to sit in the ambiguity of the culture. And you know, I've been teaching for a long time, and what I've struggled to come to terms with is to have a curriculum, but to slowly introduce my students to the Egyptian ambiguity, that okay, I'm teaching you technique and I'm teaching you, you know, musical structures, but all this is to get you to a place where you can be more in your feeling and less structured. And I think that's hard. It's a hard position for a lot of teachers because they want structure and they think their students need it, you know. And I think that's why so many of the Egyptian teachers right now, they cater to that, of teaching like a 3-minute choreography, because it's palatable, it's easy, instead of like lingering in the fuzzy edges of the cultural reality. You know, they're giving us what they think we want, but it's not really what a lot of the students need to really get Egyptian, you know what I mean?
And also, somewhere I've noticed like many people just make up their own rules, which actually never really existed. Like something which I particularly found in like most Majonse pieces, people start with a Malfuf rhythm. There is a wail, and there's one particular way of like almost everybody doing that particular section, because of which the monotony kind of creeps in, and especially even in competitions, they are kind of expected to do these things. So because of that, some monotony comes in many Majonses as well, which I've like noticed, because like such rules which never really existed, they're kind of imposed. I don't know what your perception is.
I think when it comes to competitions, it's a whole different ball game. Yeah.
I
Especially
think
for
I've heard I've heard of rules and things. Like I remember somebody telling me, you know, like the Egyptians only ever did this arm path, or, you know, like Egyptian dance is always very small, and like, you know, people like say these things, especially to beginner students, and then they sort of get lodged in your brain, and then those are like the guidelines you're following until then you have like enough observational skills to go like, wait, you know, what I was told and this rule that's going on in my mind is not matching what I'm seeing, you know. And like for me, that's how I've experienced this sort of rule set. But, you know, like in Méjanse and things like that, where, you know, there's a structure, there's a common structure, but there's like always possibility that something might be different in any particular circumstance. You know, it's, you almost have to give the caveat to students about like, but I could be wrong, or situations may vary, you know, like you need a permanent disclaimer at the bottom of the mirror that just says like, this is a suggestion of what may actually occur.
I think sometimes rules are meant to be broken, but you need to know the
But
rule first.
yeah, I was gonna ask you that, like, because I feel like as a teacher for myself, I'm definitely struggling with the perspective of like, I'm where I'm at in dance versus maybe where the students are at, and where, you know, like a lot of people in like the first 5 years, especially, they need rigid structure. If you tell them just like do something, then they're like, I don't even know where to start. And so you have to like give them rules, and then eventually they have to allow themselves to break the rules. And, you know, my brain, like, I want to start like how do you get them to this point earlier, you know, like how do you avoid the rule system entirely, and like I feel it's a struggle.
I think it depends on the student, but the average student, they kind of need it. Otherwise, you're going to have a dancer that's just going to do hand circles all over the place, for example. So one of my rules is you're not allowed to move your hands at all, except for these arm pads or whatever it is that I'm giving them. And then once they reach a certain stage, like 5 years something, then I'll be like, okay, now you break your hands. Now you can do whatever you like with them, but but not this, because every beginner, I don't know why they want to do this. This is how they express themselves, which is okay if they're not doing anything else, and they're just standing, and then they're just doing this. It's fine. But if you're also doing something else, it just looks really, really messy. Yeah, I don't know. But I have had some students who pick it up really fast, and then for them it's different. I don't know. Yeah, I know what you're trying to say though, trying to get them to that place faster. But actually, there isn't a shortcut. I feel you can't shortcut, even though they might be really great dancers and pick things up really quickly. But it's like the 10-year mark is like the magic mark. Don't ask me why. And it's just 10 years is just the beginning of when you're past beginner stage. It's not like 10 years and yeah, you're a pro. No, it's like 10 years. Congratulations, you're no longer a beginner.
Well, that seems to be like something that is well known in the classical Indian dances from like the bits I've heard. And Shruti, you were telling me this when we were in Egypt, like at a minimum, you have to study for 8 years before you even get on the stage. And like, how different is that perception there?
It's different because you're not allowed to be, you're not allowed to do your debut on stage until you've completed a certain amount of training, and that's pretty rigorous because it's codified, it's structured. We have different schools of thought, and it's not a very giving space. Like it's not like belly dance, because belly dance people still, they're like, oh, this is a global product, we can do what we want with it. And if it's in Brazil, people interpret it the way they want to interpret it in Brazil. They have their own influences. In India, it's their own influences. With classical Indian dances, we don't have that option. So we actually have a graduation ceremony for it. And in Bharatnatyam, which is the form that I've been trained in, it's called the Arangetram. It's when the dancer debuts on stage for the first time, and that's usually after like 10 or 11 years of training. And it's like a wedding. In India, it's like a wedding. So you have like invitations, the parents print out, they invite people, there's a feast, and there's this huge this hall that they book. Then there are a couple of rituals that we do before the dancing. So it's a huge thing. And I think a large part of why people revere it so much or respect it so much is because it has that certain structure, or it's codified, and it goes into, I don't know, centuries and centuries of, yeah.
So how are they, I'm really curious then, because with belly dance, it's the interaction between the audience and the dancer is so important, where I almost feel like that's sometimes it's like it's not as much of a problem for dancers to get put on stage too soon, because like they can only learn through that. So I'm really curious, like, because the classical Indian dances I've seen have such strong stage presence and interaction, even like through eyes, like how are you learning that when you're not on the stage?
I think it's like it's that thing where you're preparing for it like all your life. You're doing it first with your teacher, like your teacher's your point. She's your audience, she's everything at that point. As you're growing up, she's your mentor, guru, your audience,